just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared, and I'm here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
All right. So, definitely nothing bad came out on Wednesday.
We are so unserious.
Oh my God. It's like last week when I talked about we're going to be totally positive. Oh, trust me, this won't be an aneurysm-inducing fest. Definitely. And what's up, Cameron? Cameron says, hey guys, we're ready to talk about my two favorite DC couples, though I never knew King wrote for BC that, or I just like, yes, he did. And Britt and I will be talking. If you think his Wonder Woman run is bad, wait till you read the Black Canary book. I only read one issue, but from what I saw,
exactly.
it's like, because here's the thing. I checked it out. Here's the story. So when I heard, I checked out because I love Dinah. She's one of my favorite female characters. So I was like, okay, let me. I thought this is just me being the naive, positive Superman dude. I thought maybe he could do it well. Because here's the thing. He does street level characters moderately well. And this is before I had the epiphany about his Batman run.
That's being real generous, Jared.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Britt. You know me. But as soon I read one issue and I was like, nope, trash. But it's sad because Dinah doesn't get enough attention, as we'll see. And that one time she gets a book, it's written by the worst writer at DC. Why can't we win? Yeah. And then there's so many people tell me, oh, it's so deep. It's so deep. Yeah, it is. It's deep in the toilet. That's how deep it is. I refer to my friend Max Priestley. He has the perfect way to summarize Tom King. It's a phrasing that I've taken to heart, and it is something that perfectly describes this. He says Tom King writes for stupid people who think they are smart.
And that is true.
That is ridiculously true. So now we're talking about these two couples. Here's why. A, because they're couples that have a messy history, as Britt and I know. But it's also, this really exposes a lot of fan hypocrisy. Here's the interesting thing. The dynamic between Oliver and Dinah is what the antis think Superman and Wonder Woman is. That's the interesting part here. So, Britt, tell us about the Metahumans and the Arrows.
I love that title.
Okay. Yeah, it came to me as I was doing my my PowerPoints.
That is wonderful. Okay, so we have Superman and Wonder Woman and Green Arrow and Black Canary. Green Arrow and Black Canary, they've been, kind of together since pre-crisis. What I didn't know is that Dinah is much younger than Ollie. So that's one thing. I know they tried to do that with post-crisis Clark and Diana. Clark is older slightly, and Diana was a little bit more naive, and she wasn't really ready for a relationship. So it was that back and forth with them. But it was, in a way, it was very cute and very soap opera, and it wasn't a toxic way until after the marriage. That is when you have also the revisionist history with Clark going back and forth with his feelings for Diana. Is that people seeing that it's Diana that's pining for him instead of it being mutual. With Ollie and Dinah, it seemed that they just couldn't get it right. It's very tedious. It was a, breakup and makeup, the very passionate makeup. But at the same time, it was very unhealthy. And it really shows, I didn't know that they were together for that long. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really know that they were kind of like Velcro together.
That's so
good. And very much, if you have Green Arrow, you have to have Black Canary. If you have Black Canary, you have to have Green Arrow. In some
Not if
capacity.
you're the CW.
this we'll get to yeah.
Oh, because trust me, that annoyed the ever-loving crap out of me watching that show season by season. Then they have White Canary, then Black Canary, but it's not that Black Canary, and then it's another Black. They have like 3 Black Canaries in that damn show.
Right. And they were supposed to have a spin-off too. So yeah, that just yeah. That's a whole different thing. CW is a whole different mess. But yeah, it's as you said, everything that some fans, anti-fans claim Super Wonder is, especially when it comes to Diana. Definitely, it goes more to the traditional relationships. Um, Dinah, she was part of the JSA. Well, no, first it was her mother, and
Mhm.
that's what confused me. I really got confused. I didn't know that Dinah was a legacy character for her mother.
It's not exactly as well known if you just read Post Crisis.
Right. So you have Dinah, um, Diana Drake, I think,
Yeah,
and
that's her.
then
It's I
yeah,
think it's like Dinah Lance Drake or one
yeah,
of those
and then you
two.
have Dinah Land. So it's very confusing, but you,
DC confusing? No.
yeah, true. So they meet,
You could say that's another thing she has in common with Diana. Confusing as hell origins.
right. So they meet in the JLA.
Mhm.
And it's a it's kind of meet cute type of thing, but Ollie is very mature. He's very um I would say just like CW tried to make it seem, he's very much Walmart Batman, but he's not as emo.
Walmart Batman. That's so good.
That's what they called CW era, Walmart Batman.
Here's the interesting thing about this, Britt. So my outside of the air, so the Arrowverse was my first exposure to this character. You know what was my next exposure?
DCAU.
Nope, Injustice.
Wow.
No, but here's the thing. Injustice is the comic accurate Green Arrow where he's like joking and stuff. Literally,
Mhm.
when I was playing Injustice and he's cracking jokes and stuff, I'm like, why are you not like the show? Because in the show, he is literally Batman. So I'm like, Batman wannabe. Thank you, NJ. So I'm like, what? And then when you read the comics and stuff, and you're like, oh, he's definitely nothing like this. They basically, because they wanted to make a Batman show, but they couldn't because of the bat embargo. So they were like,
Right.
let's take another character and turn them into Batman. And I go,
Yes. That's
he didn't
basically what
even
that was.
have the goatee.
Right.
I'm
I mean,
like, you're taking away the definitive parts of the character. There was a time they didn't even want to be called Green Arrow. He was the Hood, then the Arrow, and then actually in one of the episodes, they have someone talk about the so he's the Hood. Is that really his name? And then Oliver, obviously undercover, goes, well, what would you call him? And then his villain goes Green Arrow, and then Oliver goes, that's lame.
wow.
And I go, pfft. And then later, 2 seasons later, I am the Green Arrow. And I go,
That
I
is
thought that was
CW
lame.
writing for sure.
That is so that it's the most ridiculous thing. It was so yeah. NJ, he even used Batman villains. It was the only thing they didn't do. That was a Batman thing. The only thing they held back on is Oliver never had contingency plans in case Barry ever turned evil.
Right.
That was the difference. Everything else was basically Batman.
Yeah. I mean, they have Ra's.
Ra's al Ghul, who trained Oliver. I go, you could not be more obvious. Oh, and he keeps it. So here's the thing. He's supposed to be with Dinah in the comics, but then it's like CW, in true CW fashion, listen to the shippers and put him with Felicity.
Right.
And as a purist for Green Arrow, I'm like, okay, I'm done.
The thing is,
Yeah,
what the fans really was ticked off about was the fact that the head writer lied. Because I think Gail Simone tweeted him and she was saying, "Do justice to Dinah," and he was like, "Yeah, of course." And the next episode or so, like she died pretty much at the very beginning, and it
Hmm.
was like, what happened there? That you basically lied and saying, "Yeah, we're gonna take care of her. We're gonna
And
kill
they
her."
turned her into White Canary, and then Laurel shows up, and she's a canary. Then they actually have someone show up named Dinah Drake, who is a metahuman, and she never gets with Oliver Queen. And I go, you were literally, you were like, you just have to step over the puddle. That's it. They stomped in that puddle. And I'm trying to use your colorful terminology, but
I
I'm not as
know.
good at it as you. I swear you are the mistress of this, Britt. But the point is, it's like they were literally this close, and then it's like when they formed their own Justice League and didn't do anything with it. It's like White Canary was their Wonder Woman. Obviously, Oliver was their Green Arrow, and then they literally turned him into the Spectre. And I go,
Yeah, that
what?
was seeing clips and everything of all of the CW shows. I'm like, wow, DC. I mean, the comics are you have so much lore and so the source material, but yet in all of the adaptations that they've had, it's kind of like, how do you screw this up?
Oh, trust me, because if there's one character that is made for CW, it's Oliver frickin' Queen. There's drama. He's a playboy slash party boy. He's a jokester. You could CW the hell out of him.
But yet
But but yet you
you
tried
don't.
to turn him into Batman, which is not the only time that they try and turn people into Batman. But anyway, so here's one of the reasons why Britt and I are talking about this couple, because there's so many times, because there is a ridiculous amount of hypocrisy with fans supporting Oliver and Dinah, but not supporting Superman being with Wonder Woman. And oh boy, by the way I sold this last week, when Britt and I got off recording, is I literally just told her, guess what? We can literally we can bash Tom King twice with this one. And Britt was
And
like,
I'm up
that's
for it.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. And we can never, it's considered our patriotic duty to do so. So tell us about the core relationship dynamics of our favorite power couple.
Okay, so of course, Clark and Diana, they are the outsiders, the quote unquote foreigners, the adult immigrant and the child refugee. We love that. The alien in Amazon, they represent diversity, they represent acceptance and celebrating culture. A lot of people don't like that. That is what it is, but we are going to keep talking about it anyway. And of course, we are going to celebrate it. So they are often portrayed as equals. That is the basis of their relationship. It is equality, respect, honesty, and being is played on as building a friendship of in that's something that is very rare in uh comics because yeah, you do have the romantic aspect and people have like this expectation of the romance part. But what we like about Clark and Diana's relationship is yeah, they do have that, but at the same time they can be best friends with that little tension there. You root for them, but it's kind of like they don't necessarily have that expectation to be together like that.
Yeah, it's like, here's the thing: if they never got back together, but DC respected their friendship enough to have them like hanging out and like supporting each other, it would be nice to have them back as a couple. But I would accept that personally.
Right, that I think that and of course we have a crossover, so it's gonna get more into it, but it's not so much as a will they won't they with them. It's basically like a we'll get there when we're ready, and but it's very much a slow burn. But at the same time, that slow burn is so it's much more healthier than any other relationship that we've scene, and it's just something that you do, root for. It is something that's inspirational, as best friends falling in love, and it's a relationship that's pretty much earned, you know. So they have so much in common, and it's crazy how some antis be like, "Oh, they're too similar or they're too different." Which way is it? And it's like there is no definitive answer because it's basically like I said, equal. That yes, they have so much in common, but at the same time, they have differences that counter those similarities, and it's just a balance there. And then they have this bond that, yeah, the public will see them as gods, but they aren't. They aren't even accepted by the actual gods. They
What do
aren't.
you mean, Britt? I was reading in Tom King's Wonder Woman that Batman considers them to be gods. What are you talking about?
Tom King and his
By the way, can I say,
contrivances,
you
his
picked the perfect panel because if you look at the upper right corner, this is literally Steve talking about. I'm more concerned with what's going to happen when they break up. Are you sure that's going to happen? It's in her nature. I go,
you know
you picked the best picture for that.
the thing is how Steve is such.
He's a douche. You wonder why
Very
I
much
hate
so.
this man.
And it's the fact that they glorify these relationships, especially because in that is basically what we're getting into, is because it's traditional. It's like this is expected, this is how it's been written for since pre-crisis, or since they, created these characters, and they have that specific label of the love interest. Anything that is problematic, you have to sweep up under the rug, and you have to forget it. You have to just accept it. No, we're not going to accept it. So with Clark and Diana's relationship, knowing how much more healthier it is, it closes the door on a lot of just the problematic thinking of these characters.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
in a twisted way, some fans just don't like that. So, yeah, they are these two inspirational characters that have a lot in common, but also differences. They have this perspective that they can share, with each other and create something new, and just have this strong bond as best friends that actually um, can build a stronger relationship romantic wise. And that's why we love it. So yeah, that's pretty much their whole dynamic, and like I said, why we love it and why we advocate for it no matter
Exactly.
no matter what.
And real quick, hey, what's up, Gray? How you doing, my friend? I am having a cool weekend. How about you, man? And then NJ says recently she was absent when he was recovering from kryptonite poisoning in the recent Unlimited book. That's the thing.
Right.
If DC's gonna DC's marketing on Wonder Woman sucks. Like if she's a member of the Trinity, she should get more. But here's the thing: if they're gonna say they're best friends, you would think she would be there. She was by his side in the Godzilla Kong book.
Right, but the thing is, with the main line of how they want to limit, shipping. They want to, knowing how New 52 had its issues. We've been over that 1,000 times. But the one thing that was popular was their relationship, with everything. Sewell's book, it was all there. But it got cut at the knees, and then again, the revisionist history of it all is that, oh, their relationship was bad. It was, you know, wanting to be gods and all of
It
this.
flopped.
It was a fail and stuff like that. So yeah, so now to keep that smoke and mirror up, they can't be close. And especially in the Superman book, and I've said this, because they want Diana will overshadow Lois, like point blank. And when you write Clark and Diana's dynamic as it should be, yeah, when you read it, it's kind of like, okay, why aren't these two together? So it's best. for the editors, the writers, just to not have them anywhere near each other in any book. They are somewhat in the same vicinity or whatever in Justice League Unlimited. They are in out of continuity books, but you can tell that there's a distance, and they just don't have that relationship that we're used to. It feels so hollow and it's and empty. But
Okay, real quick, I want to highlight this. Going back to Green Arrow real quick. I'm sorry, I know it's off topic, but I gotta bring this up because I'm gonna
uh-huh.
highlight a comment, and this will be really funny. So his catchphrase in that show is "blank, you have failed this city." So Brandon, Tom King, you have failed Wonder Woman. Yep. Well done, my
Yeah,
good sir.
yeah.
Anyway, continue on, my lady.
Yeah, so with that, so like I said, the reason why they don't have they're not best friends in story and or is shown is because basically they feel like it will overshadow, just like it did in Post Crisis. You had this back and forth with them, but and a lot of it did cultivate a fandom as we are here now, but they don't want that. They want to keep it limited to the traditional relationships until I don't know, until someone maybe has um the confidence and can put in the effort to put them back together or at least show their friendship. But right now, it's just the world's finest. Of course, Batman has to be in everybody's book. And Diana, with her especially being so tied up with the Chucky baby, too, she really can't be in any other books. So it's
Chucky.
kind of like,
Wh-
so,
Where is that variant cover? A baby Trinity with a knife?
you know what? She probably will be with the dagger.
Oh my god! Can you imagine? That would be if Britt and I couldn't retcon her out, but we wanted to dunk on Trinity constantly.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she's probably gonna have a dagger soon. But yeah, Diana, she's just isolated, and because her closest friend has with trying to make John work, with trying to make this stale marriage work, yeah, we won't have that type of development.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the emotional core of Superman and Wonder Woman's friendship or relationship, what have you. It's yeah, basically again. This is why I always hold up Justice League 12 because on those two, it's just 2 pages. Two, if you don't count the actual kiss at the end. Two, it perfectly summarizes the dynamic between these two people. It again, just in 2 pages, you summarize 80 years of their relationship.
Right, and it's so funny how um writers or fans would say how Clark shared his secret with Lois or something like that. But then they want to, even with the movie coming out, with him so in love with Lois, but at the same time, they say he's a lonely guy. It's like, okay, if he's in a relationship, she obviously knows his identity and everything like that. Why is he lonely? Why, if he shared a secret and he's supposed to be just Clark Kent, rejecting his Kryptonian heritage and everything like that. Superman is just what he can do and
Mm,
everything.
that line is
So
that started my villain origin story. And by the way, Juan, yeah, and that doesn't sell well in the Tom King run. I'm just saying, bro.
yeah, then it's like, why is he lonely?
Hmm.
With Diana, she is the one that even in pre-crisis, she was kind of like a moral compass. She was part of his conscience. I think um in in an Action Comics issue,
Hmm.
she was his conscience. And
She certainly was an injustice.
we don't count that. We ignore that. That is Cersei
I had
or
to.
something.
It was Cersei all along.
Right. Something
That's
like
my
that.
theme song trying to retcon out King's Run and Injustice.
Yes. Um, we can say Kingdom Come, because she
Mhm.
was literally his moral compass, even at the end when she gave him the glasses back. We saw in Superman and Wonder Woman when she named him, she said that you are Superman, Cal, and Clark. Strength isn't everything, but that is the strength is in your heart and, all of that sappy stuff. But yeah, that them being emotionally, they're not codependent on each other. They still have that independence, but at the same time, they have that understanding where they can have a mature um, conversation about things.
Yeah,
It's not like
exactly.
it's not like how Tomasi had it in Death of Superman, where Diana is basically a mouthpiece. And it honestly, when Clark and Diana, when they purposely want them to be separate and undermine their relationship, even to the point of their friendship, they come off so shallow and so antagonistic towards each other. The fact that Diana, even under Rucka, with Rebirth, or Clark with Rebirth, or Post Crisis, or something like that, anytime those two talk about each other or they are angry at each other for just anything tedious, you can tell that, okay, yeah, you're trying to ruin their relationship. It happened in the 18th letter with Clark being jealous. You know, that is something that if they were best friends, they could work that out. But Christopher Priest, he wanted to change the dynamic of the Trinity. So he was like, have Clark jealous. Him and Diana are at odds. So she shifts her friendship or whatever emotional um, like need that she had to Bruce. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. You don't make, Clark and Diana so shallow and antagonistic towards each other. It seems so unnatural and they become unlikable.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So then you get to Green Arrow and Black Canary.
So Green Arrow, oh, also with the team roles of Clark
Yeah,
and Diana,
of course. Yeah, go ahead.
they are the frontline leaders of the Justice League. Diana, she honestly need more of a leadership role. Mark Waid did say that she and Clark are the heart of the Justice League. We need to actually see that. Don't just say it. Um, and of course, they are independent, but they represent equality.
And real quick, I want to say, by the way, Juan. So first off, Marston did not create Wonder Woman to. Hang on, I'm doing Google Translate on my phone. So Marston it did not create Steve to be her Lois, and even beyond that, that role has been dramatically downgraded in much more well written runs. Second off, and it's like Diana has to save the love interest. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, bro. No, that's not it. If Diana's with another hero Superman, the writing is not lost like that. She doesn't have to constantly save him. That's not the way that works. By the way, NJ says Mark Waid hates Wonder Woman. He's lying for sure.
He doesn't. He
Yeah.
doesn't hate. He does not hate Diana. The only reason why, and this needs to be clear, the only reason why he feels like he has trouble writing Diana is because he was um, bullied, in a sense, by Chloe's fans and Gail Simone when they didn't like the way Diana was written in Kingdom Come. They blamed him for her being more strict and, the hardened, jaded warrior. But it's like within the story, obviously she's not going to be happy go lucky. She's not going to be happy because of the circumstances within the story. And she made drastic decisions, you know, like I said, because of the circumstances within the story. But at the end, she became herself again, once
Well,
it
Britt.
was resolved.
Well, Britt, it's very simple. You see, what they need to do is it's called reading the comic book. See, it's a magical like way of doing things. You
Right,
have to actually turn the page. I know that's very tough for people, and once you read it, then you understand it. If you don't, then shut up.
right. You have where, I mean, Wade saying that um basically Clark can't go through anything. Like
You
it
can't
has to,
fail. And I
he
go,
can't fail.
I'm pretty sure that's called a character arc. You're a writer.
Right, right. And honestly, I think that's Kingdom Come has been it's basically been like his worst enemy and like his savior in a sense,
Mhm.
because he goes back to that story all the time, especially when practically that's what he's known for, but he still wants to drag it at some point. He wants to down it, and I think at some point he did have a fallout with Ross, and that is Ross's story. So it's like you can't really take all of the credit for the story, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
And
exactly. But again, it's sad because he's blasting the thing that he's specifically at DC that he is known for. By the way, NJ
right,
says, just look at what he did to her in her major iconic villains like Cheetah. Yeah, exactly. It's like that's the thing about the Cheetah thing. I'm like, she's like, Cheetah's not capable of doing that. I'm pretty sure Cheetah was a smart person before she even became a cheetah.
I think that I think it is. Well, remember what he said, that he's going to purposely like write stupid stuff because of the election.
Oh yeah, which describes a lot. Yeah, that is very
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
I I guarantee you, if you see something that's very questionable and kind of like, even that Mark Wade, even he wouldn't write that. It's because of probably in his feelings. I'm not taking up for him because
In
he
which
does.
case, in which case, he's even more of an emotional twat than I thought he was.
That's true. I mean, if you have to be that petty, as grown as you are, middle aged man, it's like, okay, you need to calm down. But
Oh, he's known for throwing actual tantrums.
yeah, I've heard that, but it's kind of like you have to be professional. And, if you can basically bow, I'm not saying to bow down, but if you can bow down to some antis that don't even read the full story, especially another writer who has written some very problematic things. Gail Simone, she talks about she's a SuperWonder anti, but yet she wanted Diana to be with Tom Treasure. You know,
Or it's like, remember, this is the woman that tweeted that she wanted Diana to throw her maxi pad at a supervillain.
right? So therein lies more double standards.
Isn't it funny how the most problematic people are anti Super Wonder shippers? I mean, I know
Exactly.
correlation is not equal causation, but I'm just saying, bro.
No, that's very much a correlation to that. Yeah, so Mark Wade has his moments, but if you
Wait.
read,
Remember, Britt, in the final days of Lex Luthor. So Cal brings
that's true.
Lex to the island, and Diana like punches them and is basically like, "Get him out of here! He doesn't deserve our help." And I go, "What?"
That honestly, yeah, that was a little bit too much because it felt like they just want he just wanted Clark and Diana to fight. And it's like, this is what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I'm
It's
like,
kind
that's
of
not
like
what Diana would do. That's the thing.
right, it's like you can't make Clark and Diana have issues. They can have arguments or whatever, but they aren't going to throw punches at each other. Um, Even if you want to like homage Superman versus Wonder Woman, the Treasury
Hmm?
comic or whatever. Yeah, even that was like fourth time, and even that was kind of like, okay, That was
What's
pointless.
kind of funny about that is like in that issue, Diana talks about how much Steve annoys her.
Really,
It's so funny. Robert and I were going over for his show, and I remember reading it, and he goes, "Oh, you're gonna love this part." She is just dunking on him. She's saying, "I wish Steve would leave me alone."
well, that's the type of attitude she needs right now.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
um, yeah, so it's always some type of contrivances, but for the most part, he can write Diana. Look, Trinity. Well, it wasn't a Trinity, but World's Finest 30. Um, Kingdom Come. Under the circumstances, he did write Diana. uh, for like I said, for the circumstances. He wrote a Wonder Woman short for her 80th anniversary. He wrote Midsummer Nightmare, where she was a teacher, and that even though she had amnesia, she still was, Wonder Woman. Yeah, so he has stories with Diana. It's just he falls into the trap that a lot of writers fall into because they want that unnecessary drama.
Yeah, unnecessary is a word for it. So then we get to Green Arrow and Black Canary, and this is an example of like a classic on again off again relationship, like Britt said, and it's one of those things that it's one of those. So what's interesting, Britt, is like tell people. By the way, NJ says his editor helped him write her in World's Finest.
Did he? Did
Which,
he?
which that kind of makes sense when you think about it. But
Hmm.
real quick, so remind the audience what this is going to be random, but trust me, I have a purpose for this. Remind the audience your original conception of the character of Hal Jordan.
Oh, well, I did think he was a womanizer.
That's more Oliver.
Wow. So basically,
I mean, he's only cheated once as far as I've known, but it's like I'm like, bro, and it's a weird thing, but it's like that's why I was like, that's not really Hal Jordan. That's more Ollie.
with the way writers kind of like want to mix up personalities, and I think it was because of New 52, and especially the animated movie, Justice League War, that Hal did have the jokey, womanizer type attitude. And even Ryan Reynolds movie, he he loved Carol, and we saw that, but at the same time, at the beginning, he was that, you know, flashy, want to be bad boy, want to be a womanizer type attitude. So you do get that, and that's our problem is because adaptations, they don't keep consistent with the source material.
Yeah, exactly. But did you hear that apparently Zack Snyder's hanging out with Jim Lee?
Really?
I'm like, I don't want to get conspiratorial about this, but I'm just saying. But yeah, so it's like with Green Arrow and Black Canary, and the thing about it, but it is still like he loves Dinah, so it's not like he doesn't love her. So they still have a love, like you said here, they still have a loving relationship, and they've gone on again, off again. But mostly, it is like she is his one person.
Yeah, I mean, you can have multiple relationships. This is fiction. They can, not like Zeus. Not like Zeus.
You mean when he's
Definitely
laying
not like
scroll?
right. Definitely not
That's
like
my
Zeus.
favorite thing you've ever said, Britt. When he's laid his
Really?
scroll.
Really?
That is just so good. I'm like, that, that there's layers to that.
It is. It's very much. And I don't even, honestly, when I said it, I just said it so naturally. I don't even know.
I only brought it up because so many people in the comments of that episode were like, LOL laying his scroll.
Yeah, you are gonna catch me saying some stuff, you know. That is the Southern, you know, talk. It is. So if I say something just off the wall, it's very natural. But yeah, with this um they're fictional and you can do so much with them. You can have them in different genres and we've talked about that. You know, you can have a Wonder Woman horror story. You know, you can especially with street level characters. I'm not saying just go bombastic and have them, you know, Mary Sue OP type thing. But at the same time, you can just do so much. And
Mhm.
and even with Clark and Diana, because of their worlds and that supernatural, the science, you know, fiction and the magic, you know, combining that, you can create something so unique and so different. You can push them to um to just different things.
Mhm.
So with our relationships, every relationship is exploring a different aspect of this character. You
Mhm.
don't want to go so far away from the core of the character, but at the same time, you just want to explore how far can I go, yeah, without going away from that core.
Yeah.
And
By the way, Brits, you know what's kind of funny?
mhm,
I just realized this. This is another way it's really good that we're doing this book. So these are characters that have been screwed up by Tom King, but are also written very well by Kelly Thompson because she's writing the Birds of Prey book.
that is right.
I'm like,
She
oh
is.
my god, this could not have been arranged better.
That's true because she did acknowledge, she's the one that acknowledged the Amazons
Yep.
being trafficked and everything, and how it was actually important
And the
subplot.
birds were the so it's like Kelly Thompson was like, you're not addressing this. I'll do it. The birds were saving Amazons.
Right. Yeah. So,
Again, Kelly Thompson is the goat of female characters right now. She also wrote, by the way, Britt, remind me after this, I'm going to show you this, a
mhm.
absolutely fantastic Black Widow story
Oh,
that
wonderful.
acknowledges all of her past relationships in the most hilarious way.
See, just have fun doing that. And like I said, these characters, they can have different relationships. This is why they wanted to get rid of marriages because you're limiting the story. I can't stand when some fans say, "Oh, they have to be in their own corner,"
No, we
because
don't.
if you you know expand them, you're limiting them. And I'm like,
Well,
that
here's the
makes
thing,
no
Britt.
sense.
Yes, here's why. Okay, so it's called the DC universe. Universe.
Exactly.
This is a shared continuity.
Right. I really don't get that concept. How, if you are expanding these characters to be within the universe, how is that limiting their storytelling? If anything, you are expanding them. You are creating new dynamics, you new history. You can new challenges. I Yeah, it's just this backwards way that the fans think. It's like you are causing more harm to these characters than actually, whatever you think you are protecting them
I
from.
know it's the most ridiculous thing in the world, but then we get to team roles for these two because Dinah, okay, this is what pisses me off, Britt, because Dinah was the leader of the Justice League. They all voted for her. And it was one of the best Justice League runs of all time, short of Jeff Johns' run, but it's up there. And it's like Dino led the team, and there was this great moment where they're sending out the Justice League invitations, and they go to visit Oliver because he and Roy were living together, and Oliver's like, "All right, if you want me to join the Justice League, I'll join." And then Dinah goes, "No, actually, we're here to talk to Roy."
Wow,
So
that
she's
is
like,
funny.
so he didn't join, but Oliver was fine with it because this is when they also elevated Rory away from being like Oliver's sidekick, and then would go on to sleep with Hawkgirl. But it's complicated. It's
Yeah,
complicated.
that
But the point is, it's like she really has in the elevation like line graph. It's like this.
right. I mean, most of the time, from what I saw, she is like used as an emotional crutch. Their relationship is, like you said, it's an on and off thing. They reconcile, but then they end up getting into an argument. I've seen Dinah slap and punch Ollie on so many panels. Then they forgive and they, make up. Then you have this, are we getting married? No, that sort of thing is so toxic. But again, fans accept that. Yeah, you want the drama of these relationships because you are challenging the relationship. You want that, um, want it to feel earned and invested in. But you go too far when the characters are, you know, arguing with each other, being antagonistic. I just no, that's just not how you portray a relationship. And
Exactly.
um, yeah, Green Arrow, he wasn't so much of a leader in the JLA, or
No.
it was Dinah, and that's the issue, is that Dinah, she stood out, in pre-crisis and everything. But once they really put them together, like I said, it became like they were Velcro. And if you had Dinah, you had to have Ollie, right
Mm-hmm.
there with her. And to the point where she lost a lot of her identity. And you would think that they would want her, like, it would more so be Black Canary's world that Ollie would end up in. But it's actually she ends up reduced, to be just in his world and his family. I really don't understand how you can do that to, a female character that was so that stood out for. I mean, she does stand out, as one of the more interesting female characters of DC. I think that's because she does get more attention than others. Like, you do have Diana and Zatanna, Supergirl, but yeah, I would say it's a toss between Vixen and Black Canary. As that fourth female character that, or top five, that really get the attention. You do have Batgirl too, but even she, and we'll get to that at another time, she is also reduced to just the within the Bat family.
Yeah, exactly. By Cameron Bros. Yeah, one thing I never liked that DC does is they constantly have Oliver cheat or do Dinah wrong. And yet she keeps going back to him. And I'm like, okay, come on, guys. Eventually, because, okay, Britt, let me ask you this. As a woman, I want to get your female opinion on this. If a boyfriend constantly cheats on you, isn't it eventually the point where you're like, okay, see ya?
First of all, it ain't even gonna be no constant.
Well,
It
yeah,
is.
that's true. But I'm saying, even if you give him another chance, eventually you're gonna be like, screw you, bro.
I mean, okay, okay. You saying give him another chance? I'm saying, as me, there ain't no other chance.
You know what I'm trying
Like,
to say, right, Britt?
I know what you're trying to say, but for me, no. You
Uh,
all it. First of all it takes, like, you. It's not even a talking. It is very much a, you being cut off. Like, there's no chances. If you cheat, like, you go somewhere else then. Because that shows that trust is broken. That in a relationship you are supposed to be, yeah, with that person. And like I said, these are fictional characters, and you see that on soap operas all the time, that they have that love triangle type thing that you have this complicated relationship and trying to understand your feelings. But when it's a constant thing where you're in a marriage or you are basically setting yourself that this person is the only one for me, or we're together, and you have that sort of supposed understanding and trust, but yet you have this person that is constantly breaking your heart and um basically like they know that you're going to forgive them. No, again, why would you want to have that even in fiction? I would not want to have that. These characters are supposed to be inspirational and everything. Yeah, they're supposed to resonate on some level, but toxic relationships is not one of them. We are not supposed to resonate with,
And
cheating.
by the way, Cameron goes. That's what I'm talking about. Go, Britt.
Yeah, no, like I said, the Southern girl, I am not dealing with that. No.
Oh boy. So go catch yourself a good southern girl, gents. So then we get into the key differences of Superman and Wonder Woman.
Okay, so here is where we get to the frustration,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So Superman and Wonder Woman, again, they are under DC's umbrella, but they are two main characters separated. They have their own supporting cast, they have their own books, but again, they are two characters that can seamlessly combine, and to create something new. But Diana is not reduced as just Superman's girlfriend. And if you read the first volume, especially the first volume, you can see how the perspective and, basically the just the whole story is more, geared towards Diana. And I mean, even I think it's issue 4 or 5. It opens up. It's called Reflections, and it opens up with Diana on the mascara, and it is
Oh yeah.
her. She is at the center of it all, of her complicated feelings and trying to, truly settle upon, does she want to continue forward with the relationship with Clark? And she is the one that makes that, you know, that complete decision. So, and you see her dealing with Zod and Feora, and it's kind of like,
let's be clear. She's not dealing with them. She's dominating them.
well, yeah,
Let's be
um,
clear on that.
that's true. You also see that she is very, um, she takes charge in a very respectful manner, and respects Clark. She's not taking charge like treating him as some type of lost puppy, that you would have like this girl. I
Like with
really
Lois.
can't stand, yes, I
Uh,
really can't stand that shallow girl boss attitude. That's not feminism. That's not equality. That's just being a female dog.
Although
This
I will say, I love where Clark is like, be careful, they have heat vision. Then Wonder Woman's like, focus on your own fight.
she is his partner. It is a partnership. It's a true equal partnership, and that's what we want. So, yeah, you have where if she is allowed to be in Clark's stories, we see even in post crisis how she um was there not as a mouthpiece for Clark and Lois's relationship, but she was there for him emotionally, and she's the one that understood him. And they, like I said, they had these mature conversations about, just sharing things. With Ollie and Dinah, um, most of their stories in Post Crisis, it was team ups, but it was geared towards now you have Ollie's perspective of their relationship. And it's more so like Dinah is slowly losing her own identity. She wasn't Black Canary, the leader of the JLA. She wasn't Black Canary, member of Birds of Prey. She was Black Canary, the girlfriend of Green Arrow, or just within his family.
And if you wanna, and if you don't want to see more of that, do not read the Kevin Smith run. I hinted to Britt of a certain explicit line that Ollie says, and I'm like, no, no, I hate this. And then he has it where so Hawkman shows up and he and Oliver are fighting. Dinah gets out of the bed naked, and then like Master Terrific's T spheres cover her up as she's like basically girl bossing the guys while naked. But I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah, I see that a lot of the Green Arrow books. You have Ollie and Dinah very intimate, but again, they fight, then they make up in a passionate way, but at the same time, that's all it is. Very much a lighter version of Batcat. Um, I should say, well, that's Walmart Batcat. Um, and you, especially the Rebirth run, I was looking for a specific panel where Dinah is like holding um Ollie, while he's having his emotional breakdown or whatever. But yeah, she was there as his emotional crutch. She was there, yeah, it seemed like she was a partner, but when you actually read it, it is, like I said, in obviously it's going to be in Oliver's perspective because he is the main character. It is his book, but that's just what Dinah was. She was just a supporting character, and she was the love interest, basically reduced as to be on the level of Lois as a supporting character and love interest.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to so they have quite the history as a couple, don't they?
Yeah. So as we said, they fight, they make up, fight again, make up, um, distant distance themselves from each other, and then you have the on and off marriage proposals.
Mm-hmm.
So the first is again, well, Diana Drake. She's the original Black Canary. She was 1947, and that is okay. So this is where the relationship begins with her daughter, Dinah Laurel Lance. Okay, so that
That's where
confuses
the
me.
CW got that name from.
Yeah, that is what kind of confused me because it's a lot of Dinah Dre, Dinah Lance, Dinah. I have heard of Laurel. So yeah, it is very confusing, but that's what that is. And the even though the relationship started early, it still felt like, pre-crisis was very, it wasn't so serious. And relationships, you could explore multiple relationships, and it just wasn't, um like I said, serious. And it was, I I would say that you could still have the characters separate, you know. But as you go on with, especially within the Silver Age, I would say, and then leading into post crisis, you definitely have where writers want to humble the female character, especially when she does have this more um like this characterization as the leader. So yeah, you do start having where the female character is reduced. and that pretty much Dinah falls into the trap.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the hard traveling heroes. So a little history. So they wanted to. So back in I think the yes 70s when they did this, Green Arrow and Green Lantern were not really selling well, so they wanted to like revamp them. So what they did here is it literally the idea to pair up Green Lantern and Green Arrow for an adventure literally came down to the fact that they were both green. So first off, that's
Really, that's so shallow.
yeah, well, yeah. So the idea here was like, and the fact that Green Arrow is like an outspoken liberal, and Hal Jordan is like a conservative. So you had that sort of because the point of hard traveling heroes was they would go throughout the country and deal with different social issues, one from a conservative perspective and one from a liberal perspective, and then they let you the reader come up with your own opinions on that. So it's why it's one of the goat like comics like ever. And yeah, Dinah showed up in a couple of issues of that.
Yeah, that this is pretty much where she started to show up in the book, but at the same time, again, she was reduced to this is a supporting character for Ollie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
yeah,
would say that
exactly.
these, the premise of this era, it worked and still works for this time, but it's still within the era that is so problematic for female characters.
Yeah. Remember, this is also the era where they took away Wonder Woman's powers and made her a movie
Mm,
star.
yeah, and um, didn't she like own a boutique and stuff too?
She owned a boutique clothing store. That is
Yeah,
correct. That is correct. All right, John Jones, what's up, brother? He goes, anyone that cheats ever once the relationship is over. That is correct, brother.
exactly, John, exactly.
That is correct, brother. So then we get to post crisis, which is this is where you get the Kevin Smith stuff.
Okay, so here, 1985, and so many fans think this is basically the debut of all DC characters or
Yeah, they think
1985.
that they have a very idealized for like perception of this era where when you look into it from an outsider perspective, you look at all the BS that they put in with this, not just for Green Arrow and Black Canary, but for like all the other DC characters. And I'm like, are you sure this was as good an era as you think it is?
Exactly. So this you now have the established that Diana Lance is the second Black Canary, which honestly, if you want to do that as her being a legacy character, I mean that's fine. It's we even saw that in the Tomorrowverse JSA. That was that was nice, I would say. Um, it would be also nice to have a story not written by Tom King to show
Well,
that
that goes without
transition,
saying.
to definitely show that transition. Um, another thing is, well, we'll get to that, but it's so funny how Tom King wrote Dinah being a Wonder Woman fan, and in
At
in
least
his
now we know, and more on that at the end of this episode, but more of it now we know that's Hippolyta on that t-shirt.
exactly. So it's kind of like, oh wow, so that because as I still believe that Tom King is very much hell bent on doing the total opposite of Perez because Diana in Perez run, she was actually
Human.
inspired. Um, well, yeah, that too,
I
but
had to.
she was inspired by Dinah, with seeing a another female hero that she and Dinah is older than Diana at that in post crisis. So yeah, when he wrote that, I thought that yeah, he's definitely trying to reverse Perez.
Oh, definitely. Oh God. But so then we get so then we get to the infidelity and breakup of these two.
All right, so it's so Ollie cheats, and okay, so and it got backlash. I didn't look this up because I didn't want to, and so, so it's kind of like okay, so I looked up a lot of articles about it, and I'm still kind of like okay, so as you said, this is very much the characterization that Hal Jordan
Mhm.
was given, and it's kind of like wow, the perception that I had of Hal has drastically changed thanks to you, but now I don't really like Ollie.
Did you know, according to CBR, he also blamed the woman he slept with?
Yes, that is the reason why I don't like.
I'm like, granted, he hasn't cheated on her since like that happened. That was a post-crisis thing. But again, this gets back to a point that I always bring up about how like they can retcon out a lot of what King does, but the damage in terms of fan perception is still there. And Britt, you're the example of that when it comes to Oliver Queen.
Yeah, and well, because of this, obviously Dinah leaves him, and this is when she basically breaks free to become independent. Now, that is very much a um in a sense that resonates with real women that, you know, with being in a relationship, it's already toxic, is you're going back and forth, and you cheat, the man cheats, and then the woman breaks free. And this is very much that storyline that Dinah goes through. She, you know, basically go with her girls and start a group, and it's the Birds of Prey. Did you have to have um this kind of drama or whatever to break Dinah free? No, like that was definitely
You really
unnecessary.
didn't. I'm like, then just give her her own team. They're doing it right now. She's married to Oliver, or at least they're in a relationship together, and she's still independent doing the Birds of Prey thing. You don't need this is my problem. And Britt, you and I have encountered this in the Tomasi era. When DC wants to put in all this drama, instead of using what they have, they're like, let's force in a bunch of BS.
Yeah, it's totally unnecessary. And again, you make the characters totally unlikable.
Which is partly why Britt and I are doing the Shelterverse, because that's literally us making up for DC's mistakes.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, trust me, we have plans you guys haven't heard of. But by the way, so I read the wedding-ish. So do you know how the wedding goes?
No. Well, I did.
Oh
Okay,
my God.
so okay,
This is the
so
most convoluted story I've ever read.
I did see a couple of panels, and it was basically like a lot of the DC characters had gotten the invitations or whatever,
Mhm.
and they
Wait for it.
basically was like, no, they shouldn't do it.
Wait.
So that's
Oh no! Did you know what happened? The aftermath of the wedding.
no.
Okay. So
Oh Lord.
So this is the moment. So I picked up this book randomly because I do like Green Arrow. And I was like, okay, you know what? I might as well check this out. So what happened was they're on their wedding night. Oh my God. And Oliver goes to kill Dinah. Wait for it. It turns out it's so she kills him. Now she kind of goes. Essentially what happens is that she knows it can't be Oliver, so she starts like obsessing over trying to find where Oliver is, and the other Justice Leaguers start to think that she's going crazy. And I'm like, because spoiler alert, is not Oliver. And then what it turns out, he gets taken by the Amazons and held on the island, so she has to take like she has to take like his son and a bunch of other Arrow family people to break onto the island to retrieve Oliver.
Now,
Yeah,
Where
that was
does
my reaction when I read the story. I was like, I have so many questions right now.
where do the Amazons like? How do they even fit into this? And why is it that within the post-crisis era, this is the thing. Yes, did New 52 go a little bit too far with the Amazons? Yes, it did.
Compared to
However,
post-crisis,
however, yes, with post-crisis, the Amazons seem to be demonized and everything. They seem to be like, this is where the man-hating thing really, became such a constant thing. And like I said, yeah, New 52 went overboard, but you can't pretend and act like it wasn't there in post crisis.
it gets worse. Dinah legit takes out a bunch of Amazons. Like she shows up and like Hippolyta is like, welcome to Themyscira and stuff. And then it's like they go in for like the Amazons call Diana like unclean. I think because she's been with a man. So Diana just takes out a bunch of Amazons to show how tough she is, you see. And it's like they say you can have them or something like that if you join us and become an Amazon or something like that. It's really weird.
Who wrote this?
This was written by Judd Winnick. And I'm like, what
Please
is
stay
this?
away from the Amazons. Please stay away from the Amazons. I mean, like, it's very traumatizing.
Actually, it's not
especially
Hippolyta, but it's another Amazon. And I go, God damn it, guys.
I really just like, well, I'm glad that I didn't. I can tell when, especially with reading some of the articles and stuff, and yeah, they could be clickbait, but at the same time, with seeing some of the panels, it's like, yeah, stay away from this book. And what you just told me is basically like Amazon attack, and I'm just like very traumatized with the fact that the Amazons continue to be demonized. Why? Is it because they are, on a secluded island, and it's kind of like unfathomable that you have these strong,
It gets worse, Britt.
of course it does.
Literally, it's not Hippolyta. I want to be clear on that. But the
Well, that's
Amazon
good.
like leader that wanted to like, so they, it was this Amazon leaders. So it's basically it's not I think it's the Amazon queen, but it's not Hippolyta. So she literally conspired with supervillains to kill Oliver, so it would force Dinah to come to Themyscira and live there so she could train the Amazons.
So she can train the Amazon.
So that's this whole thing they want. I remember reading this. I was like, what the hell is this?
You know what?
Oh, and then later on they kill Oliver's son. Just for good measure. Just for good measure.
I did not need to know all that detail.
I told you it's so BS.
I did not. There was a reason why I stopped, midpoint of the little article that I was reading.
Oh, and trust me. I remember reading this and I go, so, by the way, the Amazons conspired with men. They literally show like Deathstroke and all that stuff. And I go, so they conspired with it to kill a man so she would come and... It doesn't make sense. Yes, they literally... So they get on the escape boat. Then all of a sudden, a round from like the clouds comes out of nowhere and just kills Connor. Like he's an afterthought. And I go, what? It's and this is why I go, why is post-crisis held up this much?
Only because that is the era that a lot of the fans grew up on. But yeah, when you read the details, it is horrible.
Now, I want to be clear on this. Green Arrow is still a great character. It's just some writers do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn it, guys. So that's why I want to be clear. So yeah, this was part of their like shared series, the Green Arrow, Black Canary, and it was a lot of really like it was some fun stuff, but yeah, and Amazon is more skilled than Black Canary, yes, and she took out 2 of them with her bare hands. I'm just like, guys, just stop. Now, Britt, here's the thing. How much do you know about the new 52 era of Green Arrow and Black Canary?
Okay, so not much because Black Canary really wasn't in like she wasn't important, and Ollie, the only time I saw him was like in a JLA. He was in the
So what
Justice
happened
League of
was,
America book.
well, he was also in the main Justice League book because there after Origin, and they did a couple of issues that basically tried to fill in the 5-year time skip, and one
Right.
of and what and jargon. Black Canary, the best and the best by Tom King is horse doo doo. We'll talk about that. Trust me. There's a reason why. So he literally kept showing up at battles where the Justice League was and says, "Can I join your team?"
Yeah,
because
that
he needed to rehabilitate his image. And then what happened is he was in the bar, and then Steve Trevor recruited him. And it's so funny because Oliver goes, "Aren't you the guy that Wonder Woman dumped?"
yeah.
I just love that. And then he joined the JLA. That is correct. And then he did some stuff. And okay, so this was one of the things that new 52 fans didn't like, is that Green Arrow was not with Black Canary. Now here's the thing, though. Black Canary was a badass. Like, she was a Black Ops operative. We had the Birds of Prey. They did a lot with her. So it's not like they did like horrible things with her, which again, but here's the thing. Green Arrow is also one of the Rebirth books I genuinely enjoyed. So it's like either way I was fine. So it's not like I really lost in this case, because it's like I still liked both.
Right. The thing is, again, it's like when you want with when you want more respect for Dinah, it's like she has to be away from Ollie.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, Ollie does have his own stories, but it's like she is that missing piece. You know, that
And
with
let's
her
not forget,
being,
Britt, according to Twitter, they're clearly cousins because they have the same hair color.
they are totally cousins. They're totally siblings, you know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever else and stuff. Being two blondes, yeah, that goes. But again, that is acceptable. Clark and Diana having black hair, Diana, whether she has blue eyes, gray eyes, or even sometimes brown eyes, it's the fact that Clark and Diana still have black hair and kind of wear the same colors, that they are being siblings, and that doesn't that's not accepted though.
It's so
So
simple. It's such a simple way of thinking.
yeah, that is very childish. I mean, to say that these characters look like siblings, you can say anything else, but when characters have romantic relationships and romantic history, saying that they're siblings says so much more about you and your way of
I don't want to
thinking.
see your browser history in that case.
Exactly. You can say anything else. No, I'm not talking about saying, you know, the eugenics and people are fascist or whatever like that. I'm talking about like legit criticism. If you have that, okay, it is what it is. But with saying all of this other stuff that is so childish and nothing to back it up, especially again the whole cousins and siblings thing, again, it says more about you than the actual pairing.
Exactly. So then we get to Rebirth. Now, Rebirth is where they start to put them back together. And
But they
again,
don't know each other, I
th-
saw.
they meet in the first volume for the first time. And I gotta say, this was a genuinely fun book. And it's like, you see that, like, it's really funny. Like, there's this one point after they first sleep together, they wake up and he goes, "Oh, hey, pretty bird." And she goes, "You're much cuter when you're not speaking."
Wow.
It's
That
it's really fun. And then there's this one arc where he gets stuck on the island again, and then his like salvation, Dinah finds him, and they like hang out on the island for a bit. So it's like he's, for lack of a better term, his angel that comes and saves him. So it's really cool. And in that run, they started to kind of equalize it a little bit.
kind of, but at the same
It
time,
wasn't perfect, but still.
she's still very much the emotional crutch for Oliver's story, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the one thing is that the fans, they want these traditional relationships and want traditional dynamics. And with that, it is the woman is reduced to that emotional crutch. Um, it is told with Oliver's story, whether you have Dinah and Ollie together, even Bruce and Selena, and especially Clark and Lois. You know, that is the epitome of
Oh, Clark
traditional
and
relationships.
Lois are definitely sibling coded. After all, they both have short hair.
They both have short hair.
They both
They
have short hair. They're both white. They both have black hair. I mean, you heard
they're
blue
both
eyes and purple
reporters.
eyes are like complementary. See how superficial this gets.
Yeah.
It's
Um, well, they did have the same powers and and everything a
exactly,
couple of
and
months ago.
pretty much a clone costume. But so then
Right.
you get to Infinite Frontier. Now, here's the thing. I intentionally didn't read the Infinite Frontier Green Arrow book for one reason and one reason only. The artist ran his mouth when it came out that like one of Zach's plans was to have the Amazons be descendant of Kryptonians. That wasn't the plan. By the way, no one paid attention, but the point is, it's like he says, and this is his words, but I'm going to censor myself. Thank F that guy isn't at DC anymore.
See,
So
well, we got to
immediately,
be petty.
and I was going to pick up that book, and I was like, well, I'm saving $5.
Was the artist Clayton,
I don't think it.
or
No, I don't think so.
it wasn't him? Okay. But with so their relationship becomes ambiguous again. So
Mm-hmm.
they are on a break yet again. And now they are back together in some way, but again, is Dinah being shifted to Oliver's family, the Arrow
Yeah,
family. And
exactly. And real quick, Cameron, it wasn't that it was fake. It was like you know how like, and Britt, you and I will know this, when Britt and I are writing like a Shelterverse ideas, and we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Yeah, but it doesn't work because of these reasons. Okay,
right,
that's literally all it was.
yeah, you
But
come up with ideas.
mhm.
Yeah, it's coming up with ideas. You might have like it's a process with making movies, with making comic pitches or anything like that. It's just an idea. And yeah, we go back and forth all the time of saying, okay, some things don't work, some things we might use later on and rework it or something. But just because it's out there as the idea that it was, you didn't actually see it produce and actually be within the film. So obviously it was scrapped or something like
Yeah,
that.
so I'm like, why was that? Why is that he gets heat for stuff that wasn't even his thing? But anyway, but it's like essentially, but that was essentially, yeah. Here we go. Here we go. So here's what happened, and it was the artist for Dawn of DC, Sean Izaakse. Yes, I'm naming names. I don't give a crap. He says. So it was so here's the article. Director Zack Snyder reveals plans where Zeus, the Greek god, and Wonder Woman's father would have been Kryptonian, making the hero's powers a result of her alien heritage. That's not what the idea was. But second off, so Sean says, yet again, proving he didn't understand the characters at all and just wanted things for shock value. Thank F that garbage is over. And I saw that immediately and I was like, screw you.
I mean,
Publicly bashing another creative's work. I am sorry, that is despicable.
they really like they accept, and this is basically what this whole episode is about, is the double standards of accepting the most uh, problematic things. But if they are getting paid or if they getting the attention, it's okay. But it's a popularity contest or something, or a popular thing, basically to bash a certain director or a writer or an artist or something. If
They're
you
just
fit in,
jealous that Zach was able to take these characters to places that the general audience enjoyed, but and they struggle.
I
That's
mean,
it.
it's not like DC has always struggled, even with um look at their comics now. You go back to post crisis, the era that was supposedly beloved, and your sales are in the toilet again.
And Britt, this is why I've said this many times in the early days of this show. And I'm bringing this up because last week's episode of Super Wonder was about the new 52 versus Rebirth and how DC dropped the ball. One of my friends in the Snyder community said he watched the episode and he goes, "It's uncanny how similar it was because Britt, it's legit the same story. You had a universe that represented these characters in new and exciting ways and got people excited about these characters. Then you had certain creatives and certain fans threw a fit and then sabotaged it, and then it fell apart, and then we get to where we get to. It is uncanny how the exact same mismanagement from the movies was in the comics.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, if it goes anyway, it, it might go the same way of the comics now. With DCU, it feels like it's very safe and it's the basics, very MCU vibe, and you might, get that hype of, well, at least it's not DCEU, but then after a while, it starts to dwindle. So
Mm.
I would say that that's probably, yeah, it's very much a mirror of what happens within comics too.
Exactly. So with Oliver, and then remember, Oliver actually at the time we all thought he was a traitor when he sided with Amanda Waller. A day later said, no, what happened was he was supposed to be sent in as a double agent, which I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But it was it's just, yeah, NJ. DC is defined by mismanagement. No truer statement has ever been said on
True.
this show. Like,
Right.
oh my, it's like my expect. I'm gonna bring that up later, but god damn it, you are right. But it's like with Oliver, they've done a lot of really cool stuff with him, and that's the point here. They've done some cool stuff. Writers have royally screwed him up because you notice, as far as I know, he's never cheated on Dinah since then. I think DC knows that's a massive mistake, so they're like, never reference it again. Absolutely, I don't think they even reference it. Good, because it's stupid. Because it's like ultimately, it's the same thing with like Helen Carroll. He loves Dinah, and he has demonstrated that. So I go, stop character assassinating him.
It's again, they want the drama and conflict, and you can have that. No, even in fiction, no relationship, you can't have a relationship without its challenges. You have to have that. If you want to have that Disney relationship, I mean that's pretty much what happens. That's the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's not the whole Tomasi thing of the no conflict, no story, because we are talking about actual natural conflict, not
Mm-hmm.
contrivances.
Yeah.
So the contrivance of cheating or just being antagonistic towards each other, um, and things like that. No childish stuff, but actually just challenging the relationship with different, maybe perspectives, or yeah, there is where you have a love triangle or something like that, and it's not to the point of how DC has done Clark and Diana's relationship, or Clark and Lana, where you are using Diana and Lana as mouthpieces or props, stepping stones for Lois. No, it's not that. It is more so like, if, like I said earlier, if you want these characters to resonate, you have to treat them or write them um, in a way that actually resonates. So you are going to have a little bit of realism within that, and that is the realism of relationships. And so yeah, it's going to be complicated. You're going to want this relationship with someone else and explore that, and maybe they can come to a mutual, like, grounding of, I do have love for you, and we might, dabble here and there, but I'm in a relationship, committed relationship with this person. You know, that sort of thing. Like I said, if you watch soap operas, it happens all the time. It's just fiction. It doesn't have to be anything serious. Honestly, fans need to stop living vicariously through these characters so we
Hmm.
can explore these different dynamics. But yeah, just stop with the contrivances.
Yeah, exactly. So the narrative impact for this is like, so again, he's like a radical liberal, but Dinah kind of balances him out on that, which I'm like, okay, that's great. Now, here's the thing. Yes, she is kind of like a side character in the Green Arrow books when she shouldn't be, but at the very least, a lot of like reeling Oliver back from the darkness is Dinah. So they do give her kind of an important role in his book.
I mean, yeah, it's
I don't
still
like
that.
it, but I'm just saying,
Right.
based on on the like situation we're in, and it shows no like hope of getting away. It's like this may be coping, but still, it's like it's there.
Yeah, it's like, the thing is, as a female reader, I don't want my experience of reading these supposedly strong, independent type female characters. They're supposed to be an inspiration, and they're supposed to demonstrate what being an equal is. I don't want them to be emotional crutches, for these male characters who basically are like overgrown man babies that needs to be coddled. No, that's I just no, you don't want that. So, yeah, stop writing, the characters like that.
Hmm.
And that these writers, they teeter on that, with having these, um, especially Superman, Injustice Superman, and with Post Crisis, how he was whiny. He, um, this self righteous, preachy type, and he did act like an overgrown man child. And you have even Batman do the same thing. And I really blame that for Tom King, because he had Bruce be like this suicidal, I need Selena.
And
And
remember
then,
when Selena beat Barry and Wally as they were running at her?
yeah, we
She
don't
beat
know.
two flashes.
Yeah, that,
Or when
mm,
he beat Talia in a sword fight. I mean, when she beat Talia in a sword fight.
right. And that was nothing more than um, this whole shipping war prop up thing. Um, yeah, stop doing all of that.
Exactly.
You even have Steve. He whines. We saw that he's like, to Diana, that she doesn't put him first, and that's why he broke up with her. So all of these male characters written like man babies, and then you have this expectation of the female character being the coddler and accepting that. So when you give comics have evolved to where, it's not so much as geared towards children anymore, but even if it is early teens, you still have young girls, and especially when they do want to have girls, read comics more, you want these female characters to actually be that inspirations that do not accept that type of behavior or that
Exactly.
type of relationship. Um, so with Diana, the way she's written now, I would not want to give this Wonder Woman comic to my younger sister. I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that.
You mean you're not gonna gonna give her Tom King's Wonder Woman?
Eh, Jared, I was about to say something. No.
Yeah, exactly. Cameron says rereading New 52 Superman run. It's very like that. Steve is always the first on the scene, and there's always and there's a problem with Clark. Oh yeah, particularly in that Superman Wonder Woman book. I love where we're like. In the power couple when they they pick up Zod and like Steve's there and they're both like berating him and I'm like, this is really speaking my language. Speaking of speaking my language, so we've hyped it up. So Britt, remind the audience what was the other reason why I wanted to do this topic?
Um, to bash Tom King, right?
So I made a very special slide just for this. So allow me. So here's the thing. Tom King made a boo-boo in the Black Canary book. He reintroduced so long time ago, Dinah actually, the blonde hair was a wig. And but eventually at some point she started dyeing her hair and Tom King didn't read that part because she has a wig in this. And I go, how come that's never been shown in any of the Green Arrow books or Black Canary books, particularly when she's sleeping with Oliver? At no point does she indicate that she's wearing a wig. I know that this is really like, I know this is nitpicky, but for someone that knows comics, you should know this. And it's basically more of the same with the Wonder Woman stuff, where he gets stuff colossally wrong. Not a little wrong, Britt. Not a little wrong. Colossally wrong. Like to the point where it is like dumb as hell. Like remotely like you clearly didn't read the comics because this isn't like stuff you necessarily have to dig through. There was even a variant cover of this that shows her dyeing her hair. So I'm like, you didn't coordinate? The answer is no.
The thing is, Jared, if it's dumb, you have to turn off half your brain.
Also, so the premise of this book is flawed from the very get-go. So it's supposed to be based on the WWE, and it's the idea that like Dinah and Lady Shiva are going to compete in a WWE match to determine who's the best fighter in the DC universe. And I go, why would Lady Shiva care? Why would Dinah care? And then it's like he brings up the storyline that like Dinah's mother is dying from cancer, but that's literally already been done.
Yeah, it's always a rinse and repeat.
I'm like, what in the hell is the image? So Cameron goes, the image of Diana right here is very disturbing. Well, it's Tom King, so it's supposed to be disturbing. That's also the one where she talks about eating a rat. So I just want to be very clear on that. But it's that's the thing, guys. It's like when you look at a writer like this who does, he is becoming. Okay, hang on. He is becoming the Brian Michael Bendis of DC.
Why did you say that name?
What I mean by that is that He Who Must Not Be Named has a reputation, Britt, that if he's writing a book, and this goes back to even his Marvel work, and you obviously you know who I'm talking about when He Who Must Not Be Named because I just name dropped him. So in his Marvel work, if he was writing a story and continuity would like interfere with the story, he would just ignore it, literally ignore it, and just keep writing or retcon it so it fits his story. That's what this man is doing, only he's not doing the nice thing of at least retconning it. He's just pretending it doesn't exist.
The thing with As you said with King, he supposedly has like a list of stories and he just plugs in characters.
That's
And
by his own admission, mind you.
oh, really, he actually said it.
I heard from someone I trust that he said that.
Okay, so you have that, and then he is trying to force these characters into a perspective for his own comfort of like self therapy and like going through his own PTSD. So you are going to have these characters basically very out of character.
Exactly.
And
And Cameron brings up a good point. Why does Shiva's one of the most dangerous assassins? Why would she do a WWE match to determine that? That is very beneath her. That's very well said, Cameron. It's like, why would she care? The whole premise of your stupid book is the most flawed thing that would not happen.
because, well, it is, Black Canary is the title character. And with knowing that Shiva is the better fighter, you we know that he was going to have the title character beat, you know,
Which
her.
again, who cares? Though, too. That's the other thing. Shiva's still a badass. I guarantee you, people are gonna ignore this book and just go, "No, it's Lady Shiva." That's the other thing I would do, Britt. If we were in Wonder Woman, I would have Lady Shiva show up and go, "Oh yeah, that was just a for fun match. I'm still the I'm still the best fighter in the universe."
Yeah, it honestly with the whole best who's who, with the best thing,
Yeah, who
this
cares?
shows, yeah, who cares? And also, it just depends on the writer,
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, I can say that Diana can is more powerful than Clark, which, but a Superman fan or whatever, or a writer is going to argue, no, Superman is more powerful. I mean, well, actually, that is said on the Justice League, the cards, that Superman's power
Oh,
level is at 100, but Diana's
it
is at
gets worse, Britt.
95.
It gets worse, Britt. Right, NJ brought up Shiva calls Black Canary white trash.
Yes. That,
I go,
I mean,
Shiva has never said that. Never resorted to that language at all.
that's the same thing as Tom King having every character cuss like a sailor.
Like Zeus. Trust me,
Ooh,
we'll talk about that later. Because there's the preview. This Wonder Woman issue has layers of BS. Like layers. Yeah, is Big Bart up? No, Bart is a popular character. It's just DC doesn't do that much with her Omen. But anyway, as you're saying, Britt.
yeah, well, as you said, the Tom King just, it, it's all about how, well, just writers in general, they do not care about the core of these characters anymore. They, whatever, um, it's just what they see fit. And especially when you have so many of um like the webtoons, what is it? Batman Wayne Family Adventures or whatever it was called. And they pretty much in that webtoon verse, whatever, canonize, a lot of the head canons or Twitter talk
Mm-hmm.
that is going on with these characters, and that's where they are sometimes getting ideas from. Is Tom Taylor? He does it all the time. He's like, "Oh well, it was said on Twitter. These fans liked it, so I put it in the comic." He was asked about John being bisexual, and so that's pretty much where he came up with the idea of making John bisexual. In
DC,
deceased,
stop listening to Twitter.
in deceased, um, he put Damien and Cassie together because one person asked to have Wonder back. So it's kind of like he didn't care that. Damien and Cassie is two total different generations that it really doesn't make sense. You're de-aging a character that has never had a relationship. First of all, she had a relationship with Tim. That would make more sense with
And Connor.
than in Connor. That would make far more sense than Damien. But again, these female characters are reduced and to fit the male characters. So Cassie had to be de-aged to fit with Damien just for the supposed Wonder Batship because Tom Taylor was asked that um, on Twitter, and everything else is very much these writers want fans to post. They care for the likes and the retweets or
It's because
whatever.
they're narcissists. That's
Yes,
particularly Tom King. Okay,
yes,
so this is what I wanted to say earlier, and I'm going to repeat this when we talk about the Wonder Woman issue. He constantly goes on podcasts and talks about how much he knows comics. I got news for you, dude. If you have to go on podcasts and constantly talk about how much you know comics, you don't know comics. That's like walking into an office building and saying, "I'm in charge. I'm in charge." You're not in charge.
exactly, exactly.
That it has that cringe energy. It's like the man's a narcissist to the point where he self-inserts onto Steve and then makes every DC character to the point where even making even Robert annoyed. Every DC character has to talk about how awesome Steve Trevor is. And I'm sorry, if this is some sort of self-masturbatory thing, cut it out.
Yeah, especially with the whole thing about he likes Steve and because they are in the military, it's like no.
Watch, he makes Steve a CIA operative like him.
I think he did say that Steve was like a spy, so if you know within being in the CIA, a
Did they change
spy,
his
then
military branch again? God damn it!
they keep doing it. He's the Navy, the
Navy, Marines, Air Force. I'm like, just pick a damn branch. This guy, there's no way in one career you could change branches this much.
they don't know what to do with Steve. They don't.
Oh my, well, that's why they killed him. Here's a good idea. Here's a good point. This is why I think they are approaching killing Lois, because when they don't know how to how to handle a character, they normally do one of two things: give them superpowers or kill them. They wouldn't give Steve superpowers because no one gives a crap about Steve. So they gave Lois superpowers. That didn't work. And if they do it, I hope they do it in the most humiliating way possible. And by the way, yes, guys, that was my obligatory 1 week of bringing up Lois Lane dying. I know I have to bring that up every week. Cameron says, I was just about to bring up if that whole Steve and him are in the military. So that's why he liked him. That's very it is very narcissistic.
Yes.
I have an idea making him Waller's lapdog again. Oh, that's what I would do. Omen says, as a normie, I would like to know why Tom King is such a popular. He's not a popular author. Here's the thing, Omen. He thinks he's a popular author, and he's written some books that have gotten critical acclaim, but they never sell well. Like the Supergirl book that's being turned into a movie. Britt, I can tell you, that was in the dollar bin. That wasn't even made a hardcover. I'm pretty sure it was a trade paperback, but it wasn't a hardcover until they announced it was going to be a movie. Because here's the thing about Tom King. He butchers characters. And what I always tell people, my friend Jim and I have this. God damn it.
Wow.
That's so good. Jen, I literally was just saying, I literally just said not 2 minutes ago that that's my obligatory Lois Lane dying reference. And that is the greatest moment of all time on the show, I think. Anyway, so where was I? Oh, yeah. So it's like, my friend, his fame is not real. He has fans, but not enough to make him successful. And this is what I always tell people, and this is what Jim and I say all the time. Tom King. So first off, my friend Max Priestley. I'm going to bring this up again. has said that Tom King writes for stupid people that think they are smart, because whenever you critique them, they'll go, "Oh my gosh, it's too deep for you to understand." I'm like, or maybe it's just crappy, maybe. But
Right.
and then it's like, this is what I always tell people now. That are defending the Wonder Woman run, but here's the thing, Britt. What annoys me, there are plenty of people talking about how he gets Wonder Woman's character and stuff, but when I ask them how much Wonder Woman have you read, they go, not that much, and I go, okay, I'm going to address those people. If you are telling me, if you are telling me that if you have not read a lot of Wonder Woman, don't tell me how Tom King gets Diana's character. Just do not. But anyway,
Exactly.
what Jim and I say is that you may like Tom King's writing now. Wait until he writes your favorite character. Because again, Britt can, bro, her dead Lois and woke up immediately. That's his bat signal. Anyway, but it's a tombstone that has Lois Lane on it, except that they misspelled it, so it says Lois Lane. Anyway, but because Britt, you can tell people, I was like, okay, when he was first announced as a writer, I was like, oh man, this could be really good, because again, he hadn't written my favorite character yet. The only time I've ever read his work was Heroes in Crisis. That should have been my first clue. But there's also like this Batman run. That should have been my second clue. I missed so many. I have a crappy detective on this. And it's like, there was so many times, there's so many warning signs. And then it was like, and then Britt, you and literally everyone I talked to was like, wait for it. Well, when I had my friend Gabe on, he said, so they announced Tom King as a Wonder Woman. I would like to apologize to every Wonder Woman fan for what they're about to endure.
I mean, you try to give these writers chances because, maybe
Because I know he can
one,
do it. That's the sad. That's one of my most sad parts about this, because I know he can write well.
you're so optimistic because honestly, for me, nothing that Tom King has written is like that
Okay,
groundbreaking.
yeah. Here's the thing.
And
Here's the thing. I've gone back. This whole thing has started a reevaluation of Tom King's work, and yeah, you're right. He doesn't write good stuff. But you know what this did do, by the way? So I recently went back and watched like all the Wonder Woman episodes of the DCAU. And it literally is the Thanos meme of perhaps I treated you too harshly. Because, yeah, it's like they didn't do Wonder Bat and stuff. So I'm like, okay, fine. Yes, they made Wonder Woman angry. But it's like when you compare it to this BS, like, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I was a little too hard on the DCAU Wonder Woman.
I mean, definitely anything is better than Tom King. It's a very low bar.
That's why I tell Britt whenever she's like, I don't want Rucker to get back on Wonder Woman. I said, Britt, just get the man off the book. We
I
can
mean,
deal
we
with whoever
as
comes out later, but let's work on this. At least Rucker likes Wonder Woman.
we are very much at a low bar point where anything is better. And the thing is with DC, they're saying how, sales are good. That is one thing that when you have to talk about sales, and especially with
That's
Tom
the
King,
thing. Yeah, exactly. My friend Jim talked about that, where he has to go on podcasts and talk about, yeah, DC's happy with the sales. Really?
right? When you say that, oh, well, Wonder Woman sales are better than Conrad's, Clooney and
Mm-hmm.
Conrad, it's kind of like that is very like low bar because their their sales were like you were in the middle of still the in a sense it was Infinite Frontier, but at the same time it was still that era of rebirth, the continuation of that. Wonder Woman had not had a relaunch. She's just have had different creative teams. So in her book just continued to dwindle down. Unless it was like a special, like I think it was Wonder Woman 750 or something like that. But if it had variant covers. But other than that, with the constant rotation of creative teams and the stories just not really hitting, her sales went down. And
Here's the other thing, Britt. When they say that sales are doing well, here's what they don't tell you. It's the absolute sales that are like holding your company up. It's
exactly.
like Superman in Man of Steel when like the world engine is shooting all this gravity down on him. It's the absolute universe that's barely holding your company up, because even according to comic book shop owners that I heard from Robert, he said that like, yeah, the sales were almost at the post-crisis level when Warner Brothers told them you have to improve your sales. The absolute universe, which took major inspirations from the New 52, saved DC.
So it's a repeat of New 52, as we've said within.
Literally, history repeated itself.
We've said this, that, and it is, I wouldn't say it's a validation for what we've been saying, because, well, it is, but at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, we know. And it's a lot of smoke and mirrors that DC continues on with, and, kind of like really manipulating the narrative. We've been saying that sales have been basically post-crisis era of the reasoning of why they had the reboot in the first place. I mean, before DiDio left, he basically alluded to such anyway. And yeah, it's like, would the New 52 had continue on if they made it separate like the Absolute verse? Honestly, yes, it would have, but at the same time, WB
the other
they didn't
universe would have still been like bleeding.
exactly like it is now. If you have only, and even Scott Snyder, he for him to say that sales are up, he's only talking about Absolute Batman, because that is
Yeah.
their number one book. That is the
I mean,
only book
the
that,
highest selling book this week was Absolute Flash.
yeah. So with him
When they
saying
just did a
everything,
relaunch of Superman.
yeah, when he is very much just talking about the Absolute books, he tries to give, you know, the mainline credit, and you have them doing events. You're in the middle of an event with Mark Wade doing his We
Yesterday
Are
line,
Yesterday.
which is weird. By the way, Britt, you brought up a good point. What does it say that the Absolute Universe is the top selling thing at DC? I think I can make that determination, and it hasn't had one event in a year.
Right. I mean, I think they even pushed back the meeting. Well, I think that he said that they will probably allude to it at the end of the year, or they would have done the meeting at the end of this year, but now it's at the beginning of next year. So, yeah, they are trying to push, basically keep these characters solo as long as possible, and then set up the meetings. That
But
just
my,
shows
my,
how
my
strong
point
they
is,
are.
if there's like an event, look, because the reason why DC does events is to like bring in a lot of sales and stuff and crossovers.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
The Absolute book is the top selling thing consistently for DC for a year. It doesn't need any crossovers.
Right.
Like, by Cameron brings up a good point. They manipulate the narrative because they know if they acknowledge the truth, they have to recognize their faults and see where they effed up. The only time I've ever seen DC say we screwed up is during Rebirth, when they were on the New 52 apology tour, and I go,
And even that was
I'm
kind
out.
of like, yeah, even that was still manipulating the narrative, because why are you apologizing for New 52 when that is what saved your company?
Yeah, exactly. And it saved your company, so just stop it. Anyway, so then we get to the double standard. Actually, for more pissed off, because here's the thing about this. It's like I said before, the Green Arrow and Black Canary relationship in some ways is what people accuse SuperWonder of being.
Yes. I mean, you you the fans say that Diana, she's going to be reduced to Clark's girlfriend, or she's just an accessory. But yet, in her own book, right currently, you have, first of all, you have two statues of Steve, and then in one, it's in the middle of the mascara, and Diana is draped over him like an accessory in her own book.
Yeah. Well, oh, no. In the book called Trinity,
Well,
daughter of Wonder Woman.
well, it's still, I would say it's an extension of her own book because
Well,
the
it's a spinoff. But anyway, the book called Daughter of Wonder Woman is about fathers and
in daughters,
daughters.
exactly.
By the way, Ashton brings up a good point. Yes, outside of Aquaman, Flash, and Green Lantern, maybe Green Arrow, Rebirth aged like milk. You notice how no one talks about Rebirth anymore, Britt?
No, they don't.
Not even in the documentary, and people still talk about the New 52.
Right. Um, and to say that it undermines like the feminist narrative, no. The feminist narrative is still very much apparent within Clark and Diana's
Well, Britt,
relationship.
remind people what's actual feminism supposed to mean?
It is the equality of the sexes.
Equality doesn't mean exclusion.
No,
It means equality. That's a concept that's apparently foreign to a lot of Twitter Wonder Woman
yes.
fans.
And it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. You, even if you are in a better in a certain area, you basically help each other. You know, you learn from each other and you respect one another. It's not about this whole girl bossing and dominating a man and all of that type, stuff like that. No, it's not about that. It is equal respect, you know, and building a partnership, building trust and honesty. And a lot of people, yeah, they don't really see that, don't like it, they want to ignore it, but that's just what that is. But again, in reality, we see in multiple storylines, multiple books, that Clark and Diana, they have a healthy relationship. Um, yeah, it has its own drama with, especially with post crisis. And honestly, the negative of Clark and Diana's relationship is always outside negativity. It's because of writers trying to make them, as I said earlier, antagonistic towards each other, distant them from each other, especially after the marriage with Lois. You had Clark um, having feelings for Diana one minute, and then the next he's written as, "Oh, it's only Lois," you know. So we saw that in Wonder Woman 141, but in the Superman Giant, he is, you know, it's only supposed to be Lois and breaks Diana's heart. Or in the 18th letter, you have Clark jealous. Um, Even though Diana was kind of like, it's a story about Diana being undercover, trying to figure out something. Um, uh, you know, I think she was being blackmailed or something, or it was threatened to be. So instead of being supportive and protective, Clark was being, his protectiveness was twisted into anger and jealousy, and that ruined their relationship. Or you have Rebirth, where Diana is a mouthpiece for Lois and saying how, oh, Clark and Lois being together is true.
And then
Or
ending up in a mental institution. It's kind of funny how one predicated the other, right?
right,
Admitting Chloe's works ends up in an institution.
yeah, that is awful. Or you have her throwing her own relationship under the bus, saying that, oh, being with Clark was easy, and but I don't understand what love and romance is, and needing Steve to teach her, but at the same time, he throws her, like you said, into a mental institution, and she basically has been living a lie this whole time. All of these things is so unnecessary, and again, what's projected onto um, Diana and Clark's relationship is not the reality of their relationship at all.
Yeah, exactly. By being liking Lois, liking Lois is clearly for insane people. Again, I will never ever regret that I brought out the Lois hate on the internet. That will never not be funny to me. But anyway, you see it with Wonder Woman fans on Twitter. Yeah, it's not all of them. So I'm gonna. There are a lot of good people in the Wonder Woman fandom that Britt and I interact with, but the a lot of the very vocal ones are aggressively anti-male, and I go, you realize that's not what the character is about, right? So then you have the reception of the character where the fans are like literally shot down the new 52 Green Arrow, and then it's like then they hold up and they want the rebirth to go through, and they want them back together, and I go, okay, so one's okay, but one's not. By the way, real quick, I just want to address this. What do you think DC could do to convince the Jump Hug Superman is genuine? Because as a normie, the first time I heard of this relationship, my head went, "Well, that feels forced." Um, if DC was actually honest about the history of their characters, where Superman and Wonder Woman were like hinted at liking each other for literal years, and if they would stop sabotaging the books, that's kind of the way this works.
Exactly. If you would, like, post crisis did get that right in the terms of
Did Britt just
they
wait? Did Britt just compliment post crisis?
uh, hold on. In Perez narrative
Oh, okay.
of
There you go.
yeah,
That's the Brit I know.
yes, of Diana being very young, it's kind of like very fast paced and you have to slow down. You know, you meet someone that can understand you just like you and everything that so it's very exciting. But when it's time to actually, you know, move to that romantic type, relationship or whatever, she wasn't ready because she was so young. She just, she hadn't really experienced the outside world yet. So she had a lot to learn. So they slowed things down and they decided to just be friends. And really what that was, you know, you're going to build a friendship first, build a solid friendship of trust and honesty, getting to know each other, and then you see, okay, maybe we can let this evolve into a romantic relationship. Now, everything else that came in between of Clark, like I said, the whole back and forth thing of um, now with the marriage to Lois and all of that, and Diana again being used as a mouthpiece. No, we can X all that out. But when focusing on just Clark and Diana's relationship, when you can just have it build slowly, that is where it feels more natural, and you won't feel that it's forced. It's never forced, and honestly, no relationship is truly forced unless you are trying to hammer in the traditional way. And that's also the thing is that Clark and Diana's relationship very much challenges the traditional mindset because yeah, they are two main characters that are supposed to challenge each other. They are supposed to clash in a natural way. They are supposed to be equals. Tomasi admitted that he feels intimidated by Diana because she demands the spotlight. Well, it's like, well, yeah, Sherlock, because she
She's Wonder
is,
Woman.
yeah, she's Wonder Woman. So she is supposed to. And you, as a writer, are supposed to take up that challenge and write them as the equals that they are supposed to be. You can't put her in Lois's position that he uh, um, showed that he felt comfortable with, that having her as the glorified housewife that baked pies, you know, that sort of thing. And then you're jumping the shark with having her in the hell bat suit, or you have
Oh
her do
God.
you have her do certain things, but it's a one-time thing. It's a every couple of months we'll have Lois do something that, seems interesting. Or you have Clark he even threw Martha under the bus, or to say that, oh, I didn't marry Diana because she didn't have a Pulitzer.
Exactly.
That sort of thing is very childish. It's unnecessary. So as
And by
long
the
as
way,
you,
uh,
mhm,
real quick, and by the way, Omen, if you ever want to see a full in one volume why Superman and Wonder Woman works, just read this. All you have to do is read this, and you're good to go. Don't read the Charles Sewell part. Do not read Tomasi's work. Trust me, it's a bad idea.
yes.
Okay, there you go. But anyway, so into this, it's like again, it's like a lot of this is like supremely hypocritical in terms of how they like. It's basically like it's basically like it's weird. It's very weird. And again, Britain, it's like it's the same thing of like when they gave Lois powers, and now everyone was talking about how great would it be. Imagine how powerful their kids would be.
Right. Or that, oh, now Lois can understand Clark, or they are the power couple. So now that Lois have powers, it's acceptable. Or now it's okay to be called the power couple or something like that. Yeah, that double standard hypocrisy is it is very weird, you know. Um, and you can have a preference of a ship. Everyone is different. You are going to um, have your own experience with the character. You're going to, gravitate to a certain era of the character. Just anything like that. We're not saying anything is wrong. It's just the fact of trying to basically act superior is a problem.
And NJ brings up a great point. There's a weird obsession by some fans who hate Super Wonders that heroes with powers can't be a couple when they're okay. Again, you know what, Britt? I'm going to tell you this. I'm glad they gave Lois powers. You know why? It exposed all the hypocrisy in the fan for everyone to see, to the point where like even normies were exposed to how hypocritical this was.
Well, yeah, and it's two reasonings why they like that. First, they know that it was going to be temporary. So, with it being temporary, that means that Lois
No,
eventually
there were people saying that they should
they
make it
wanted to be
permanent.
permanent, right? But it's also some that knew it would be temporary, and they were glad of that because they know that Lois eventually is going to be right back in her place, quote unquote. She's going to be the supporting character. She's going to be that, damsel in distress, or um or Clark, the Captain Save a Thought, mentality. So, it's going to go right back to that. Um and also with um with the powers, it was they do want a power couple. But they think that Lois is still human. And honestly, that takes away Clark and Diana's humanity when you try to place it that they're only quote unquote human or have these human emotions and stuff when they are linked to a mortal love interest. It's
Mhm.
kind of like, again, everything that they claim Super Wonder uh, is, they are the ones that are making it up to be that in their minds. Because if you actually read the stories, it's the total opposite.
But Brit, reading's hard.
Right, it is. It is. It's very hard. I mean, going, I guess, most of the people that we come across are, I mean, maybe they don't pay attention in school, maybe they have graduated or whatever, but it is, or maybe they don't just pay attention either way, but at any age, I would think that you would want to read. But if you don't want to read it, just shut up about it then. If you don't actually know about the dynamic and you're just, being like a parrot and you're repeating the same thing that other people have said without giving it a chance or understanding yourselves, just shut up. Don't talk about the relationship. How are you going to not like something that you don't know anything about?
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Cameron brings up a good point where he goes, also, this may get me some heat. Oh, come on, Cameron. Who cares about that? But Clark and Lois have not really been seen as a married couple, at least to me. All you have is John, and he's aged up, and you have the twins. Do you have the twins? Because I haven't seen them in like a long time. And by the way, once again, Luffy.
Right.
Luffy. Have you talked with Dead Lois yet? Yeah, you just missed it, brother. Don't worry. I'll tell you what. Yes, at one point they had the opportunity to take out Lois with Doomsday and they didn't take it. There you go. I've talked about it. Go on, Britt.
Um, it's that is the reason why the marriage is back. It was just because of John. They really had no reason to bring the marriage back. Um and again, the DO alluded to that some of the things that they brought back within Rebirth, it was kind of pointless, you know.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, with John being aged up, Super Sons, you didn't have to have all of that just for John. I mean, John really has not shown why he even exists. He was just Damien's playmate or whatever. Even with Trinity now, D- Damien is doing his own thing, or what's been solicited uh, is hinting at him dying. Then you have John, where he's a full grown adult. I think he's 20. So where in that does Trinity actually um, fit within that Super Sons dynamic? It's only, basically an out of continuity type thing. Um, and the Super Twins, no, they are very much irrelevant. Their only relevancy is Philip Johnson Kennedy writing them, which they will be in one of the books that he's writing, but they're kidnapped. So it's like, yeah, they really don't have a place.
Yeah, and they only exist because they wanted to have Superman raise kids, but John was aged up. But anyway, so then we get to, let's talk more about Green Arrow and Black Canary, because it's with the fan reception to the characters. This is one of the couples where the fans and editorial are like firmly in sync with. I just hope we don't get writers like Judd Winnick, who, as I've explained to Britt, it's, please don't like character assassinate the Amazons. And here's the
They
thing.
can't help themselves, it seems.
Here's the thing. In the Birds of Prey book by Kelly Thompson, now this may just be editorial, but Dinah beat Diana in a fight.
Oh, right. And honestly, I think that was because of the title of the book.
Yeah, she's writing that. Plus, I know the way Kelly Thompson writes Diana, so I'm like, you know what? I'll give her a pass on this because it's like they have to win. It would I rather not have that plot? Sure, but you know what? At least Dinah has a position of prominence.
Yeah, I mean, you can give this a pass because at least in the Birds of Prey book, she did reference the Amazons and made it like they care. That they it's so much better than Tom King. The only thing that I would say,
That's not a
and
high bar, Britt.
that's true. The only thing that I would say within that fight, um, I, It's just the fact of the Amazons being demonized and villainized. I
True,
just,
but that's like part of the entire like
yeah,
run.
it's kind of like that is the only kind of like issue that it can work within a story, but it's a very tiring storyline because
Yeah.
if the Amazons aren't the villains, they are being victimized, and I think that that whole thing, yeah, we have that in the Shelterverse. You're going to have that, but at least give them some type of respect too with it. At least make them kind of like how she's doing with Absolute Wonder Woman. They were heroes. They were the first heroes of that earth. So it's like, give them that honor, and then you can, well, don't villainize them. But if you want to have some type of dramatic event going on Themyscira, then have at it. But give them some type of respect first.
Yeah, exactly. So then, all right. So Britt, tell me about this crossover idea you got.
All right, so because we are talking about, the fans and everything, and the basically hypocrisy and double standards, and with Clark and Diana's civilian identities being the reporter and the ambassador, and then you have Oliver and Dinah. Dinah is a singer, and Ollie is this billionaire wannabe playboy. Let's have it be a public um, love affair, basically. And they are very much in the tabloid couple. I always, I did like um, how Mindy
Mm-hmm.
in Perez Run, how she was basically trying to put Superman and Wonder Woman, Diana and Clark together.
Yeah.
It was very cute. And she wanted that headline, she wanted that
Even
PR
if there's
type
a
thing.
lie, I love her line here. One man's lie is another man's publicity sensation.
Right. It was like she wanted that drama. She is that honestly was so it was a very playful type thing, it was very innocent. But at the same time, Clark and Diana, it was full of drama because you have the perception, even with the new 52, it evolved with that of the when the world found out that Clark and Diana are together, you have these different people talking, and there are people for it and there are people that are against it. So it is a romantic drama and superhero, epic type thing. You have the themes of fate. We always have the whole thing of dealing with the fates, that whole spiritual bond type thing. You have the identity crisis, because with um, taking inspiration from volume one, and then again with Dinah and Oliver in their public identity, their public reputation. You have the love versus expectation, and it's basically they obviously love each other, but that expectation of the public and then themselves. You have the mythology, and again, the whole spiritual bonding, but the reality of how hard a relationship is. You have the public perception, which is the fans and the writers or
Mhm.
editorial. You have that power, the agency, which is showing Diana and Dinah as independent female characters, but also that they can be the equals to Clark and Ollie, and the vulnerability that they can still be vulnerable without being pathetic, as how Tom King has written relationships where Diana being just this emotional broken wreck, you know. Um, So you have, of course, the settings of Metropolis, the Mascara, Star City, and the global media.
And by the way, real quick, Zed has a very good question. Story sounds cool. When's the part where Demon Lois shows up?
Okay, so yeah,
Again, I just love I've manifested this.
this is so funny because I did think to maybe add Lois to like that, and we will have that within the Shelterverse of Lois being kind of like an antagonist, but because she is part of that media perception. So yeah, that is very apt to what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, continuing on.
Okay, so basically the overview and the question, what if the world couldn't stop watching heroes fall in love? And it's basically like,
So it's like the Kardashians.
well, no, because the Kardashians is very
Dysfunctional.
dysfunctional. Yeah. This is, and it's not so much as like a dating, you know, it is like a reality show. It's like one of those real world type, reality shows. And yeah, so if you want to think of cameras following Clark and Diana and Dinah and Ollie around, hey, you can think that. Um, so it's a romantic, political drama, and it's centered around Clark and Diana. They aren't exactly in a relationship yet. They are doing this sort of like, of course, we have the feelings. It's very obvious, it's very obvious to everyone around us. But we have this a friendship that we care so much about, and we don't want ourselves to get in the way of it or the public because the public, of course, is judgmental. And then you have you have Ollie and Dinah. They are in the midst of getting ready for their wedding, and it's of course a media frenzy. Is a lot going on with within the superhero community, and yes, they do have open identities. Honestly, I just felt like for this hypothetical story that we may or may not do in the Shelterverse, that
The
we
answer's
can play
May. The answer's May.
that I like at some point that they have open identities. It just feels like it opens up a lot more challenges for them.
Yeah, sure. You can bell to it and watch. The fans will freak out. They need the secret days. How is it supposed to be grounded?
No. I mean, honestly, if they have the open identities, that these characters never need grounding. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
say being humbled, Clark and Diana have always been humble. Um, but they are also free birds. They are meant to fly. So the grounding thing does not work for them.
But then again, that would require people to actually read the comics. But
True, true.
but as we know, they don't do that. So issue 1.
Okay, so go back
Oh
to
yeah.
the meta commentary. Okay, so again, the public perception is basically about the fandom and editorial debates over these relationships.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so I didn't know the how to name the villain of this, which of course someone will say is gonna be Lois, but but an actual like villain is basically like the manipulator.
I
And
got it. I got it. It's a manipulator, right? We can make it a
yeah,
media personality named The View.
well, that is a TV show. Well, this is a reality show.
And it manipulates people. Eh?
Yeah. So I did have the name Manipulous, but yeah, that
Hey,
works
I
so
like
much
that.
better.
That works
That
too.
works
That
better.
works too.
So you have the view or
Wait, I got
manipulator.
it. Do you know who Glorious Godfrey is?
Yes, I think so.
He does the TV show where he turns people against the superheroes.
Oh, We
So for
might.
those that don't know who he is, he's actually a being from Apocalypse that has like some like he doesn't have mind control, but he kind of like manipulates people through the media. He's basically like Alex Jones.
We can definitely, or Wendy Williams. We can definitely probably use that. Yeah.
Oh, bye. Lois taps into her satanic powers to try and manipulate. God damn.
I
I
knew
love
it.
you, Zed.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
All right.
exactly. Glorious Godfrey. Who's gonna see that coming? Of Glorious Godfrey.
So we have Superman and Wonder Woman. Of course, they have the idealistic relationship. They are seen as the perfect couple, but for some reason, very controversial, and unrealistic, and but yet deeply resonates. And that is what we now as fans deal with, that Clark and Diana's relationship. Again, some people say they have they're too similar or they're too different, that they'll be like the perfect couple in a I I don't understand how the perfect couple can have like a negative connotation to it. I really don't know how that happens. But yeah, that is the perception that some antis want to project. And and being controversial is only because they challenge the traditional relationships or the expectation. Then you have Dinah and Ollie. They represent the imperfect relationship, but they are accepted because you see that messiness, you see that drama. And honestly, when you watch reality shows, that is what fuels people. Even on Twitter, people gravitate to the negativity, and they are very much entertained by it. They want more of it. So if you have something that is very positive, people want to tear it down.
Yeah.
So Clark and Diana's relationship, they are hell bent on tearing it down. Diana and Ollie, they cheer for it. They love the mess. And so this story argues that no love should be judged. However it is, um, if it's something that is has shown, yeah, it has its challenges and everything, but at the same time, again, you have a healthy relationship. And Clark and Diana has always been a healthy relationship. Do not use injustice as with your argument, because we know that every single character within injustice is awful, very much out
Exactly.
of character.
Unless, of course, you're a bat adjacent character. Which, by the way,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's not that Apocalypse has journalists. It's that Godfrey is a expert manipulator on Apocalypse. So Darkseid placed him on Earth in a media role so he can manipulate the public to rejecting the superheroes. And Cameron says, "Wasn't that that Wonder Woman chick with Steve Trevor and Superman with Lois Lane? Are they cheating?" Would definitely be a comment. Yes, it would be.
Yeah, it
It
would be.
definitely would be. If the reception of Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1 was any indicator, yeah, that would be. And then Luffy says it's pretty contradictory. People call SuperWonder perfect as if it's a negative thing, but at the same time, they act like Lois actually is perfect. Here's the thing. When they say Superman and Wonder Woman and they go, well, that's too obvious. I go, well, thank you for admitting it works.
Right.
I'm like, do you realize what you just said?
No, I mean, they do, but again, in that twisted sort of way, it's supposed to be a bad thing.
Well, yeah, exactly. But so let's talk about issue 1.
Okay, so the cover story. So this is where Clark and Diana, they as even in the Shelterverse, we have this constant where Clark and Diana are um working together. Clark as the reporter, Diana is the ambassador, and Diana is the voice for the people. And Clark is the voice through his words. So they travel together and, really bring the stories to the public. And they obviously when Diana has interviews or press conferences, her personal life is always going to be brought up. And especially the fact that she has this close relationship with Clark, he is going to be brought up even in his face as um, being asked, let's say, by Lois or something in front of the public, wanting to know how close is their relationship. So, and then you have, of course, the paparazzi and stuff like that, and you have these rumors. It's kind of like how in the New 52, it was News 52, and that was just a cool thing because in the early uh, 2010s, you did have this media frenzy of these hot topics of paparazzi, TMZ type thing. That is where that really became a popular thing. Um, and then you have the basically going back to that image of Clark and Diana kissing, and you have all the commentary around them.
Hmm.
You have some people that are for them, some people are against them. You have they're too powerful, or they're idolized, or they're too similar, too different. Basically, everything that antis would say, you bring that up, and everything that people that are for the relationship, you would have that within there. Um, and, you know, it all mirrors, again, what we know from um, fans in reality. Then with Dinah and Ollie, they have this high profile wedding coming up, but and Dinah is trying to balance her career as a musician, so she has a tour, and Ollie, being uh, hounded by for a documentary. And so, yeah, you can have basically cameras following them around. They are basically the reality TV show couple. And honestly, I can really see that, especially with
Hmm.
Dinah being as a as a musician, and of course she is going to be recorded um, a lot, and just that billionaire playboy type antics that Ollie would probably, dive into. So yeah, I can definitely see them as kind of like a um let's see, what celebrity couple? Um Not so much as Pamela Anderson and
That
Tommy.
that's the thing. You have to think of celebrity couples that aren't horrible people.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
Yeah, because it is some messy
But by the way, Cameron brings up, OMG, Stacey would be insufferable saying something like, "You two don't understand that people seeing you together causes concerns." Like, oh, shut up and go back to Waller. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And then you have some people are calling Dinah and Ollie the it couple, and you have um, fan shippers that every shipper calls whatever relationship they prefer as the it couple. But of course, Clark and Diana are the ones that are being judged. And on the surface, Dinah and Ollie, again, they are getting ready for their wedding, and it seems all happy. And that is what's displayed in reality shows, that everything is all good. But behind the cameras, it is a lot more messiness that's very toxic. And you do go through, not saying that they are like that as characters, but you do go through the abuse. Well, Dinah has slapped and punched Ollie, so a little bit of
Hmm.
abuse, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to a good old issue 2.
Okay, so issue two, Clark and Diana try to date other people. They are, trying to basically explore, and see if it is like a real love between them. Is that really a romantic love? And once they date around and see, okay, this isn't for me, they start gravitating towards each other more so. but it's still very complicated between them, and it's, they, like in post crisis, they want to, they deny their feelings, they, try to distance themselves from each other, or um or things like that, but they can't help themselves. Then you have where Diana, she's, because of all that, trying to juggle so much, something happens and Clark is right there by her side, showing her that no matter what, he will be right there with her as supportive. And that makes her fall in love with him a little more, because, again, in post crisis, we saw that they were, you know, so supportive of each other. Um, and the public opinion continues to be divided, and for Clark and Diana's relationship, and it's just something that they have to get through together. Di- Diana, she confides in Diana. We've talked about that, Jared, where Diana is sort of like a therapist. Well,
Hmm.
switch it around, and Diana is like the therapist. Even though she's having her own issues within her relationship, it's kind of like how in reality you can give advice, but you can't take it yourself. So basically, Diana is in that position with Dinah.
Hmm.
Um, but she also is very open that she has issues, with her own feelings and trying to understand them. So the threat, the manipulator, is basically like an AI, and with how AI generated things, it's so much of that going around um, of news, fake news, basically, and people are believing it. So, and especially when you don't do your own research, so that is basically the big threat is AI fake news. um,
I wonder where you got that from.
well, the reality of
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, exactly. So
So,
issue 3.
okay, so issue three is basically the world is in chaos. And again, that is very much reality. We see on Twitter how so many people will believe in like total lies. And when you present them to the truth, it's very hard for them to accept the truth because they have warped themselves into believing a lie. And so Clark and Diana, um, the issue they have and what the public now sees them as, okay, they're just gods and they are going to, overtake humanity and all of that kind of stuff. Of course, we've seen Twitter fan bases say that Clark and Diana, they lose their humanity, they are gods, even though we've given uh, comic panels where they point blank say they are not like gods, so they are not gods.
Hmm.
Then Dinah and Ollie, you see that they are very performative now. Now that their relationship is the true drama within their relationship and the doubts that they have within their wedding and stuff, and the basically wedding jitters, they're very much becoming performative with the lovey-dovey stuff. um, and it becomes where you don't know if the faking it is actually faking it, or we're just faking it as an exaggeration just for the camera. So yeah, people, they will believe in lies um, more than the truth. That's basically what issue three is about.
And then we get to issue 4, rewritten.
Okay, so this is where Clark and Diana now somehow they get trapped. Maybe it's a dream or something like that, but they basically see their lives um, in different ways. How can it go about? Um, And this, I would say this came from seeing Hyperman and
Mhm.
Hypertime, um, or even Tomorrowverse, where they were able to see, you know, obviously you're a different, version of yourself, and how did your life, um, what path did you go on? And for Clark and Diana to see, okay, he wants that normal life. He thinks that he wants it, but it's without Diana, and that's something that's missing. Um, it was actually in the Super Doom crossover
Hmm.
where I think it was that Brainiac that was showing like the illusion of everyone has like this
Yep, that
perfect.
was Brainiac.
Yeah, so basically that is what this is. Clark sees this perfect life, but he feels that it's something missing, and that something missing is Diana. And Diana, she sees herself as like turning into that god or goddess of that people, think that she's supposed to be, and she's alone, and without Clark, she she doesn't need him, but it's just that person that she can truly confide in, and especially within man's world, because he truly understands her without the whole um without trying to explain to her things and make it seem like she does need to be tamed in a sense. She can still be herself and learn and things like that, and Clark lets her be herself.
Yeah, exactly.
So Oliver, Ollie, he's consumed by the guilt of just becoming consumed in that performative type, in that performative state. And he wonders, has he trapped Dinah in this sort of bubble of trying to uh, have this sort of public image? And Dinah, of course, she chooses him, to love despite his flaws and everything like that. She loves him. They're still very much a toxic couple, but they can still work that out and be more honest with each other. So these couples now, they are fighting for each other. That they have understood, you know, they Clark and Diana, obviously they aren't perfect. The world can think they are, but they're not. So it's basically like knowing your own reality
So
is
you're
your
saying they're
truth.
not gods?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Wait, so they're not Superman and Wonder Woman aren't gods? Since when?
Right? I don't know. I
It's
think,
really weird.
well, I think it's because Clark is an alien from another planet.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
Diana, she is, created by clay. Yeah, she's blessed by goddesses, but at the same time, that doesn't equate to her being a god or goddess. You know.
Yeah, I know. So then we get to issue 5, declarations.
All right, so now you are in full force of these couples are fighting for each other, and they are now owning their truths. They know who they are, they know what they want, they know what they need. So they are standing side by side together as equals. They know that, they the public can have whatever perception that they want. They can believe it or not, but they know their truths. And that goes for both couples. So you see that whether Clark and Diana, say they have another interview and they make a joke out of everything that they've gone through. Um, Dinah and Ollie, if they get into an argument and the cameras are rolling and you see it, hey, that's just what it is.
Yeah, that's the way it's gonna be. And then we have the epilogue.
So now you have all of that. Everyone, of course, some still believe it, some still are, hey, you can even have where TikTok is now in this verse and people are making like their think pieces.
But I thought DC was supposed to be the idealized world.
Whatever. DC is, they need to get out the Stone Age basically and be up to date. However,
Yeah, but Britt, do we really need TikTok?
I mean, you do need where like think pieces though. Like you do need a little bit of realism. If you write it, okay, let me put the stipulation on that. If you have writers who know how to write certain things naturally and it's not cringeworthy. You know how like some writers, they want to have like the stereotypes of the Twitter talk, you know, in using certain phrases that Twitter uses, you know, that sort of thing that's very cringeworthy. I would say hold back on that unless you have someone that can naturally put it in. But yeah, if you want these characters to really feel like they are of a modern age, you do have to reference um, the what's happening in reality and create that yourself within the comics. That's what New 52 did. I mean, New 52 was really, it had its issues, but I would say that having News 52 and the way they incorporated as like being inspired by TMZ and stuff, that was a natural fun way to handle it. So
Yeah, exactly.
you can do TikTok and stuff. It's just having a writer that can um, do it without being cringeworthy.
Speaking of cringeworthy, all right, you gave me that. I was waiting until the most fantastic transition. Speaking of cringeworthy, a certain issue was released last Wednesday.
Yes, I had to have this as first because we don't want to end this on a terrible note.
So I'm gonna summarize this. So have you ever gone through like? Have you ever felt really, really, really sick and it's like everything hits you at once? You're vomiting, you have explosive diarrhea, you're coughing all at once. That's what it feels like reading this issue.
Well, yeah, and very much a like a very bad migraine.
Every
You
time I
know,
turn a page, I screamed. I was like, ah, ah, ah.
yeah,
Because this is the meme. Our expectations were low, but oh my god.
it was in hell. It was.
This was the worst. When Diana screams, "I'm in hell" in this issue. Yes, that's something Diana screams. I felt like that's the fan base. But okay, question: besides sales, why was Batman in this issue if he serves zero purpose?
Because Tom King has an obsession.
Also, I love oh my gosh, it's so deep how Hippolyta calls him and says men are either above you or below you, all else is just play. See, this is what I think King is doing. He's trying so hard to convince you that Diana's awesome, even though we all know she's cool, that he's trying to denigrate other Britt. It's exactly how we describe how DC writes Lois, the way that like every other character has to trust me, Omen, it sucks. Where it's the idea that like how to prop up a character, in this case a character that doesn't need to be propped up, you denigrate literally every other character, including the gods. You make it so I'm still trying to figure out how she could lie with the lasso of truth around her neck, and then Bruce says, "How did you? How are you able to lie about that? I thought that was the most powerful thing on Olympus." And then Diana doesn't even address it. Doesn't even address it. Hephaestus is treated like arguably an R-wordist. Ares, okay, so he spends his days crying about all the stuff he's done. I get that, like, yeah, he's been getting kind of a redemption arc since like G. Willow Wilson, but yeah, at no point is he like crying. I think that's Tom King self-inserting. Then you get to Diana like torturing gods, and it's revealed that the reason why she does that is because, all right, It's because she has an anger inside her because Steve Trevor died, and you then have but Batman calls Superman a god, which he would never do. And then Diana loves a man more than the Earth. By the way, Britt, I love how whenever that happens, they reveal why SuperWonder wouldn't work because Clark loves the Earth, and Diana has to love a man more than the Earth. And I go, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like, literally, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was definitely a clickbait article that, I mean, it really shows how threatened, fans are or whatever with Clark and Diana's relationship. Even if it's nowhere to be found, it still finds a way to be brought up. And it's so kind of like, where did that come from? Diana, that is not a flex. Saying that Diana loves a man more than Earth, first of all, that's not her. And second, again, that is not a flex because you're putting this one person before Earth when Diana has never done that. She will always put the world first. And that is the one thing, honestly, that um, actually that was said by Sewell in the Superman and Wonder Woman book that Clark and Diana puts the world first. And if they don't do that, then their relationship doesn't work. So to again, that goes within the hypocrisy that Clark and Diana right there say that the world comes first for them, but it's still not enough. Yet you praise when Clark and Diana would put the world at risk for Lois and or Steve. That is just like you said earlier, very weird to praise something like that. It makes them so shallow. And it makes them again the gods that they claim that they are when they are together.
Also,
Um,
Britt, how would you like it when Hephaestus, when she fights Achilles, and then he goes, "This is blasphemy," and then Diana says, "Yeah, ask me if I care."
Diana, yeah,
If there's one character that would care about blasphemy, it's her. Or how about where she calls Zeus, "You silly little man," and also Zeus swears like a sailor. So I'm like, Tom, stop.
Diana, first of all, with the way she was torturing and being abusive towards Dionysus was just uncharacteristic. I mean, it was so unprovoked. And it was like, why are you having her just bully the crap out of Dionysus? And the thing is, Steve's death wasn't because of the gods. So why are you mad at them in the first place? Um, Hippolyta's characterization is definitely part of my villain origin because because the way she speaks, and it's even worse now, the fact that this Hippolyta is supposed to be a part of the JSA history. So it's kind of like she's worked with men, so she understands the the importance of equality. No, it didn't work with the JSA because at that time, women were still treated um, as below men. That's true, but the purpose of Diana is to show that times has changed from whatever time Hippolyta has left for man's world to go back to Themyscira. And for Hippolyta to still have that black and white narrow view, um,
When
it
she's
it
never had
shows
that
how
previously.
right, but it also shows that Diana is not doing her job because her job is to show the Amazons the better way and that the world has changed to be equals. So if Diana is like again, she's not doing her job.
And by the way,
Um
real quick, Alman, if you like Wonder Woman, I wouldn't recommend reading this book at all. And Batman's in it, but just from a surface level, because he plays zero role in the story. He's just there because the sales are horrible for this, and they want to try and boost sales.
Yeah, and for this to be a two-parter, it really did. It really was unnecessary, especially when nothing, like it didn't matter. You killed off Ares just because the redemption arc. Also, I mean, they already did that, and you have to have war, like, and peace. It
I think they
it's
were
sort of
trying
a
to like go with Ares and make him like what New 52 Diana was, where maybe he was trying to change war.
yeah, but that still doesn't work. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
it just does not work. So with making him like a god of whimpery, as I said, it yeah, it doesn't work. You're just very, I don't know what Tom King is doing, but
No one knows what Tom King's doing.
yeah. And what's crazy also about Tom King's how he has written Diana in this book. The first arc started with the Amazons being imprisoned and trafficked and murdered. And then it ends with it being about Steve. Now you have this arc, or, two-parter, where it's about Hippolyta being accused of murder. And basically, she's this suspect that Diane has to help. And then you end it off with it being about Steve, where the only we don't see any type of reconciliation, any type of resolve really for Diana and Hippolyta by the end of this story. We don't see, you just like wrap it up with Diana talking or whatever, but at the end she still says, "Oh, I." She starts crying about Steve. Like, what about your mother that was just accused of murder? You not hugging her. We
That
don't
would
see.
require Tom King to give a crap about the Amazons.
Yeah, we don't see anything like that. We just see Diana crying. And even with Bruce, first of all, Bruce did not have to be in his
He did not have to be
tundra.
here at all. Besides, so King can rip off Immortal Beloved yet again. This is the second time he has ripped off that story.
Yeah, we did not have to have that. And then for Diana to be crying again over Steve and saying and using Batman as a mouthpiece, saying that I talked to Steve when he was around the JLA. No, he wasn't. Steve was never around the JLA. It's the same thing as saying like he was around the Amazons. He was not. Steve has never had that type of interactions with Batman or any of the JLA members. So this was very contrived. And to say that he loved, especially with Guy, like the fact that you can make up this and try to think that it's some poetic and all of that is it, it's very frustrating as a fan because again, what's true and what's not. And having all these contrivances to make your story work, and the way Diana is written is so pathetic. Yeah, again, my villain, this is ultimately my villain origin story because I just
Join the
can't stand it.
club.
I really can't stand it. um and with Hephaestus too, he is Diana's like closest brother. And especially with him being, he's kind of like the softest too, because of his disfigurement and everything like that. He is the one that really never does any wrong. So for him to be characterized as kind of like almost a villain, for Diana to be so rude and mean to him
And the
and
way it's
just,
phrased when he's choking her and she's on her knees, her face is like at crotch level. And I go, bro, did you really think this through?
and then you have the panel where it's kind of like flashing her backside too. Yeah, no.
Also, Britt, I noticed earlier in the issue, you know how I complained about Diana having those like circles around her eyes that made her look evil? That's throughout the entire issue. It's not just when she's being choked.
That's because she's crying like a big overgrown baby.
Even when she's not crying.
So maybe she's tired because she got the Chucky baby.
Or maybe they want her to look evil because she's not with Steve. I guarantee you.
So
King will try and retcon it in that like Diana and Steve are like fated, like they're two halves of a soul, and then when one half is not out, it screws with the body. Watch that Diana will start crying blood next because Steve's not dead. I mean, because Steve's dead.
If she does that, honestly, that would be like
he already has 2 statues.
I mean, for King to criticize, saying that in previous runs, the run was about like her love interest and villain, but yet he is doing the same thing but worse. Like, honestly,
watch. I guarantee you, the next arc will be her telling the baby about Steve, and then it'll mostly be about Mouse Man, and she won't do anything to fight Mouse Man.
Exactly.
I'm making that prediction.
No, I think the next issue she is telling like a bedtime story to Trinity about Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like that is yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, just that whole thing of even with Dead Man. I mean, for the gods to be afraid of Batman, that is something that is so over the top. Even
I'm sorry, Batman should be afraid of the gods.
Yeah, even with Clark, he
respected them. I know this because Jim and I, the week before this came out, Britt, actually 2 weeks ago, Jim and I from Weird Science, we discussed Superman Wonder Woman issue 2, my favorite issue of all time. And even when like Clark is being talked down to by like Apollo, he 100% like is respectful. And it's like he's like she's her. I love this line where he goes, "Yeah, he deserves to be punched, but he is Diana's brother. Family's tough." You see, this is what it is. But it's like when I see this, I'm like, "What do you do?" This is Tomasi level BS. Only Tomasi's more talented at writing Diana.
Well,
compared to Tom King, Britt. Compared to Tom King.
Oh, I'm kind of speechless. I'm not gonna say a word.
Compared to Tom King, Britt. Come on.
I mean, honestly, they both on the same level. I would not have if you said you was gonna bury me. If I had to choose, I would let you bury me.
Oh my gosh! All right, you know what? I'm gonna wash my mouth out after that because even I don't believe that.
Dweeb.
All right, there you go. So DC did one good thing though with Wonder Woman. And by the way, NJ asked also, what was the point of this pointless arc if they didn't want to bring it back at politics? Here's the point, NJ, to improve sales. This shows me DC is concerned about the sales because they put Batman on the story because they know Batman can bring sales. And the first issue it did. I don't know about issue 2 yet. We probably won't know until like it was like the first or second week of June when we'll find out what happened here. But we'll see if this really improved. And if it didn't, like watch it go down because King sucks at writing the endings for stories or like worshiping Steve. Because it's getting even the normies really annoyed with the way that King has some type of obsession with Steve Trevor.
I think with seeing the statue as well.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
That was like the stupidest decision I have ever seen, the way they do this. And I am just like, I'm flabbergasted that got by an editor. Well, then again, the editors don't do anything.
Exactly. And for fans to say, "Oh, Wonder Woman needs a female like writers and editors," she has a female editor
and Gail Simone,
right? So no, it does not matter the gender.
And
of
also,
the writer.
The same people that say that talk about how great George Perez was.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
So
sure George Perez was a dude.
right. So it does not matter the gender. It all depends on, do you respect Diana to put her first? And
Exactly.
yeah, with this, it was awful. And I do go a little bit of in depth with a thread on Twitter about this. And it's, yeah, the more you analyze this, it's kind of like,
Again, it's a sweater made by someone that's never made a sweater before.
yes,
Well,
but
actually, it's a sweater made by a blind drunk man.
yes. And honestly, with seeing the fanboys, like, it, what also ticks you off is that fanboys are praising this out of spite for the Wonder Woman fans. It's not that they actually care for the character or the book, it's just to spite. Because for some reason, again, Wonder Woman is a female character that intimidates writers and fanboys. And it's kind of like they want her to be humbled. And that is just something that um, you know, it it's just something that I don't understand, that I don't think any fan will understand. But with Wonder Woman fans continuing to push for better, then it's the fandom being toxic. Again, I don't understand that type of logic, but yeah, if we want a writer off the book that is obviously destroying the character and making her Wonder Woman 1984 redo, then yeah, we're going to voice that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but yeah, Wonder Woman editorial does need a big change. But I'm sorry. It's like, if I've said this before, the reason why I started the hashtag is, guess what? If DC refuses to respect the integrity of these characters, then guess what? It's our responsibility as fans to do that. I'm sorry
Exactly.
that's the way this works. But DC did do something good recently with actually, ironically, with Wonder Woman. Isn't that kind of funny how this works out? So, as you guys know, what annoys Britt and I about Wonder Woman in the past is that she's been old as dirt, to use Britt's hilarious terminology. So DC undid that. So in the new history of the DC universe by Mark Waid, Hippolyta was the Wonder Woman in the Justice Society of America. And I'm going to talk about why this works. By the way, I will say, Britt, how serendipitous is it that it gets announced literally the week, like a couple of days after I put out my Wonder Woman Immortal video, where I literally tell people just make
Right.
Hippolyta. I literally manifested
You
this
did.
again.
Yeah.
Oh my
Keep
gosh.
manifesting.
Now,
Keep manifesting.
real quick, NJ, no. Holding DC's feet to the fire is not toxic. Attacking people is toxic. There's never a reason to attack people. I want to be very clear on that.
Right.
Attack the book, not the writer. Because trust me, Tom King basically gives you a treasure chest of stuff to basically shoot with a machine gun, not him. I just want to be clear on this. But anyway, so it's like with this, again, literally, I cannot get over the timing where I literally manifested this. Britt, this is legit my solution that I came up with. I just said, just make her the World War II Amazon, and because it's like they look alike, so people could have confused her. That's it.
Yeah, it definitely works.
And I'm like, see, here's why this works. And Britt summarizes it, but the reason why this works, because I saw some people, yeah, but Cameron, here's the thing. I get that is the critique people have of Diana being a legacy character, but here's the problem. Because DC is determined to have a Wonder Woman on the Justice Society of America, so that's a requirement. We're not going to be able to escape that. And if you have first off, if you have Diana be like thousands of years old or like hundreds of years old, you can't have her be in a relationship with anyone, because then it gets into certain territory. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't know how much I can say on YouTube. But the thing is, it also makes sense. We need, oh my gosh, if we were the Wonder Woman editorial, I could see, it's kind of funny. Watch. I'm Tom King's immediate editor, and then he tries to go over my head to you.
You see, we will definitely be like the quote unquote bad cop, good cop, and I am very much.
We're gonna be bad cop, bad cop. That's what we're gonna be.
Well,
here's the thing. Our first, as Wonder Woman editorial, our first day of action will be telling Tom King, get off the book. And we're making this a Black Label Elseworlds book. Sorry, bro. Trinity doesn't exist. We're done. Anyway, so the thing about the yeah, go ahead, Britt.
You see, that's why I called you the good cop, because I wouldn't even be that generous. It's basically just going completely retcon. It's very much we're doing the
I got
rebirth version of an illusion.
Diana is like sick, and like she had this whole run is a fever dream.
Exactly.
Because wait, in Wonder Woman 800, she was in that little crystal pod. She's still in the crystal pod.
Exactly, but it will be a nightmare.
It's definitely going to be a nightmare. Oh, the one thing we will keep is Steve died. We're going to keep that. But
she basically tells herself like she don't even care for Steve like that when she wakes up.
Yeah, because she didn't. But anyway, but it's like with this house, because here's the story that DC's basically doing with this. It's essentially Hippolyta goes and serves with World War II. And then she sees the horrors of World War II. Then she comes back. Then obviously time passes. She creates Diana. Steve crash lands. And then what you see with this is like that explains why Hippolyta is really hesitant to release Diana into the world, because she knows the horrors of man's world. Because as far as she knows, it's still like it was in World War II. So it's like that it fits with the message, and it allows Diana to at least redefine who Wonder Woman is for the modern age. Now,
exactly.
And NJ, it doesn't, because here's the thing. Yes, I realize, NJ, that Batman and Superman have been the only ones, but here's the difference. There's only ever one Wonder Woman at a time, where there's been two Batman and two Superman. As far as we know, John is still Superman. So if anything, they're less unique than she is.
Looking at it that way, especially for the modern age, that is true.
Yeah, because there's only one Wonder Woman at a time. There's two Supermen and two Batmen.
Right, and again, it still goes in line with the legacy of the Amazons, because yes, Hippolyta was part of the JSA, but it was still, again, in that wartime, how women were treated, how, just everything was so much more cruel. So that's pretty much why she went back to, and I think at that time, what they want to establish too is that heroes weren't accepted as easily. So they basically dismantled and had to go back to their wherever they lived, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Because one of the things that they established that they kind of retconned in is that the reason why the JSA broke up is because of like McCarthyism, and they had to take like loyalty pledges to America and stuff, and they were like, we're not gonna do that, and then they left. But it's like it's like, really, when you think about it, it protects the integrity of Diana to be this way. And it's like, as long as I have Diana in the JSA, as long as I have a Wonder Woman in the JSA, this is the best option. Because what this does, it simplifies the timeline. Plus, here's what people forget. This was canon in post-Crisis Wonder Woman. It's like in Final Crisis, they reference Hippolyta being on the JSA. I'm reading Jeff Johns' JSA. That's canon right there. That's just it was canon for like the longest time. So that's what people are forgetting. They're acting like it's a new thing. No, it's not. And if anything, this is something Diana kind of needs. And by the way, before you ask, I'm fairly certain they're doing the Clay origin.
Yeah, this is the better compromise. Because again, you don't have Diana owe dessert. And again, it goes within the line of um why Hippolyta feels the way she feels about Diana. And it also emphasizes more of Diana's purpose. That yeah, she was created um as the gift for the Amazons and especially for Hippolyta, because she wanted a child, but also to show that the modern world has changed, or at least have that for a second chance type thing. So it is something that's very unique still, even if Diana isn't the very, very first Wonder Woman. I would rather have Hippolyta take that slot than having Diana Oldesert. That is just no.
Yeah, exactly. This is way better. And again, it's like this is the bittersweet part of this week because it's like, okay, you know what? At least we got this because this is something that Britt and I have called for since the very beginning of the show, since we met. So it's like at least we finally have this. The other thing is we got we finally it was finally revealed what Stephanie Williams' Wonder book is, and again, it's a book that I'm going to support still because I love Wonder Woman and I hate Tom King. But it's essentially it's called Wonder Woman and a Wee Wonder. It's essentially like a Diana like as a kid story essentially, and it was originally supposed to be a 6-issue series, but it's being turned into a webtoon with 26 episodes, which I'm like, that's a lot, and that's actually really cool because I like when they delve into how much of a troublemaker little Diana is, and Kelly Thompson digs into this in Absolute Wonder Woman with her Little Diana series. I love that title.
Diana should always be a little troublemaker. Like, and it's not so much as a troublemaker, it's more like
That's
she's
how you
very
make her a
curious.
rebel, Tom King.
Yeah, she's very curious and adventurous. So it's in and she basically she's a free bird. So she wants to just do things. And yeah, she and take up challenges. So yeah, she will be a handful for the Amazons, and that's something that is is very nice to finally have like some type of positive representation for the Amazons. So I would definitely even recommend this. Now, this is something that I would give my little sister for sure.
Oh yeah, exactly, and it's really fun. I like how Stephanie Williams is giving more of a positive depiction of the Amazons because Lord knows we need that so badly.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that yeah, even though it's a book for younger ages, I'll be promoting the crap out of this. We may even have a thing where we talk about each episode at the end of each show. I don't know, we'll see, but it's going to be really fun. And here's like some stuff on the art. It all looks really good. And I like how it's also going to play into like, to essentially Philippus being like Wonder Woman's other mom, which when you think about it, yeah, that makes sense because she is in a relationship with the queen. So I'm like, again, I'm surprised they never really addressed this.
Yeah, that is something that is showing that Diana, she didn't have a traditional birth, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and she doesn't have a traditional family. That's what made Diana unique. So anything that really emphasize in a positive way the non-traditional relationships in within family, especially for Wonder Woman, that is a plus for me. The way Tom King is trying to force traditional, things with Diana, whether it is having, yeah, he used the clay origin for Trinity, but at the same time, he still put a man within
He's
it.
still, and he had a nerve to talk about the feminist nature of it. And I go, bro, you just undermine that feminist nature.
Exactly. The fact that, again, Diana's whole story is centered around Steve. You put a statue of a man in a military suit in the middle of the mascara. That is just that. Yeah, that is another 12 feet under. Um, and yeah, just having that. Also, his whole thing about fathers and daughters, and Trinity feeling like she needed a father. So she goes searching for him. Diana never needed a father, even with trying to have her as uh, Zeus's daughter. She never cared. That was something that it was Diana basically frowned upon it. She didn't care for Zeus to be her father. If anything, a New 52 kept um, the consistency of, yes, Diana and Hippolyta have this very rocky mother daughter relationship, but they love each other. And that is what pretty much is the focus and the central part of Wonder Woman, to strip that away, to make it about Steve, to make it about fathers or whatever like that. You are totally missing the point of Wonder Woman. So this book, even though it is a basically, it's kind of like a toddler's book, but it's still something that is just much more respectful to the Wonder lore.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So, in terms of like some Wonder Woman, it's now. I know you guys are gonna ask. All right, so because people have asked me how many issues of Tom King do we have to endure, I'm again going to say latest is issue 50. That's the law, assuming that the sales stay where they are and don't improve like dramatically. He'll end at issue 50. Now, that's not to say if the run craters, he's not going to like get kicked off the book, or if DC wants to do another relaunch of something like that, they could just decide, let's just relaunch. In which case, his run does not survive that. There's no way he survives another relaunch.
No, this is definitely, if the main line continues to go the way it is, and especially with the absolute books, and that's gearing up for more absolute books to be launched, I think within the next few months or so, then yeah, there's no way that Tom King will stay on the book. I mean, they didn't you say that within like September they're supposed to be shuffling creative teams?
Supposedly. Now, I'm going to wait and see if that happens. It could happen, it could not happen, but it's like something that could be going down. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to get my hopes up.
Yeah, but still, I really just think that at this time, with DC basically keeping afloat with Absolute, and the negative, you know, um, reactions to King Book, no matter the Eisner thing or whatever, the Eisner's is like the Oscars. It's very shallow. It's just a popularity contest, so it doesn't really matter.
I still think it'll be easier to get him kicked off the book if he loses Eisner's, if he loses all the Eisner's and Kelly Thompson like rakes him in.
Honestly, if Kelly Thompson does not win, definitely is rigged, because there is no way that Tom King's Wonder, like, why would that win
This is
anything?
the second time, by the way, Britt, if it does lose, we can call it the multiple Eisner Award losing series.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't even be nominated in the
It shouldn't
first
even be
place.
nominated, but still, we can call it the multi Eisner Award losing series.
Yeah.
So I really hope so. I really hope. And yes, we still do need Sensation Comics, and I feel like with Absolute Wonder Woman performing as well as it did and showing them that they need to fix that Wonder brand. That's the thing. No, ignore the sales. When you've been going for 3 hours, nice. Yes, Dave. This is Super Wonder Legacy. Those are child numbers, but with Absolute Wonder Woman performing as well as it did for a year and showing no signs of slowing down, I highly, highly, highly doubt that that there won't come a time, probably later this year, when DC decides, okay, we're going to reevaluate how we do Wonder Woman, because even if it's true that they're like, well, at least it's better than Clunrad, eventually with like Wonder Woman, with a Wonder Woman book dramatically outperforming their main book and everyone loving that book, DC has to like see through it eventually.
Right.
And real quick, before we log off, we got a preview for the upcoming issue of Absolute Wonder Woman. So I wanted to go through that real quick before we log off here, because it's the new story. So let's do this, because it has some really cool stuff that I want to talk about. So first off, if this is this is starting a new character arc, but if you want to, and if you're just starting here, they provide you a handy Star Wars crawl for you to read and get caught up on the story, which I like. And then, but I love the name of the arc, As My Mother's Made Me. Wow.
That is so. Wow. I did not read that title card, and now very much captive.
I love you, absolutely. I love you, Kelly Thompson. And then we have Diana talking to animals, and then she's talking to like doves, and it's like her first time speaking to a dove. She said,
Yes.
you know what she's doing? It's a pigeon like thing from World War II where they sent notes through pigeons.
That is so cute. And the way this is depicted, Diana is giving very much a Disney princess, but in the most innocent way. Is it gives you Perez than the obnoxious, ditzy type Disney princess. It's such innocence and such um just a pure spirit type thing. And that is what Diana should convey. Seeing her saying that, a pigeon is so beautiful to her, and it's the first time she ever saw one, it really pulls on your heartstrings too, because it makes you realize, and also the contrast with the crows, that she saw crows, she know what crows are.
And she says, "Oh, you are very lovely too, but in your own way. You're just different." And then apparently, so what this is, she's having the birds go out in all directions to try and find the Amazons.
This is how you do the story, Tom King. Diana's focus is solely on the Amazons, finding her sisters and mother.
And I love how everyone's like, "Oh, it's Snow White."
Well, yeah, it is Snow White, definitely, but again, in a very pure, um,
Yeah.
lovely way.
And she has white eyes now instead of red eyes. So that's something interesting.
I think that shows her, if that is her like power talking to animals, whatever,
That's kind
that
of
is
cool how
so sweet.
she has different eye colors. And then we finally get to see more Veronica Cale. So what I'm thinking, this vault, I think that maybe what this actually is, it's like some like, let's see, what's the idea? It's essentially like either the Amazons are being held there, like maybe she's in league with the gods, or here's another idea. That's like where they're holding like some of the more like the absolute versions of like other Wonder Woman villains, like Genocide, and she's about to be unleashed on Diana.
Exactly. Yep. It has to be another villain.
Yeah, but again, isn't it nice to see Veronica Cale actually being used?
Yes, it's nice to see all of Wonder Woman's supporting cast and everything used in the most respectful manner. Even if the Amazons is not there, it's still the fact that they are very much felt because you know that again they are the focus, and that is what and they're the focus and the central, and that is what a Wonder Woman story requires, you know, and that is the core of a Wonder Woman book.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like we've said before that like Wonder Woman, like that like Veronica Cale is like one of the best like Wonder Woman villains to use, and she should have been used for the Sovereign story, but still, I digress. That would require Tom King to actually read Wonder Woman. But
Exactly.
and by Lavian Dragon asks who our favorite Snyderverse side characters is. Well, I guess Hippolyta. Give it that. What about you, Britt?
Laura.
Oh, Laura, of course. There you go. You really love Laura, don't you?
I do because, okay, first of all, her character is undermined, you know. So when, as we said, we first started, you know, comics really getting invested with the New 52. So that was my first, like, real introduction of her. At first, you think of her as just the mute wife or whatever, just the biological mother of of Cal, and then that's it. But when she actually has like character development, and you have her as like this badass um general of the Kryptonian military, as kind and she's also equal, very smart, a scientist, um, with along with Jarrell, and that she also wants that protection, and very much a champion of the oppressed, even through the with the Kryptonians. It's like, yeah, this is what we need. You know, stop making her just Jor-El's wife. Stop making Superman's story just so male dominated with the fathers. The mothers are just as important. Martha gets some attention, you know, but not as equal as Jonathan does. And then again, is very much male dominated. So when you have two strong female characters as Martha and Laura, giving that equal spotlight to Superman's story and showing that they matter to him. Yeah, I love that. So yeah, New 52 and absolute versions of Laura, I really do adore.
And obviously also Snyder's version, which as
All
soon as
right.
when we did that episode again, I'll never forget it. I as soon as I saw Laura, I was like, I know Britt's gonna give her her own slide.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
absolutely know it. That was great. My favorite scene with Laura is where Krypton's like exploding, and then the robot goes, "Shun, we seek shelter," and then Laura goes, "Where are we supposed to go? The plant's exploding." And then she just looks up and goes, "Make a better world, Cal."
Yeah, was a she matters, you know, just as much. And to show how strong she is, and especially that beauty of being the first natural born of Krypton. Like, a childbirth is a beautiful thing, it's a very hard thing. So for that to be like the first in 1,000 years or so on Krypton,
Mhm.
that should be more emphasized. And it's not just Jor-El, it's the fact that Laura gave birth to, basically, if you want to prop Superman up as like a universal savior, she birthed a universal savior. So yeah, she deserved her flowers.
Yeah, exactly. And then DC pushing the narrative that Clark Kent are mentally weak and will snap makes them pathetic. Yeah, Batman kills, he goes crazy. Lois dies, Clark goes crazy. Diana's without Steve, she goes crazy. Yeah, exactly. That's our problem.
Yeah, that is awful.
It's like if they're that close to snapping, they shouldn't be superheroes.
Right. I
I'm
mean,
sorry, that's just the way it's got to work.
yeah. I mean that kind of gives the narrative that they have like this hidden agenda, that they are trying to be heroes, but at the same time they basically want the public's trust, and then will turn on you in when they have basically one more bad day.
Well, except Britt, I disagree with that a statement in one capacity. You said hidden. It's not. It's not a hidden agenda. It's a straight up. We're telling you our agenda here.
Well, that's true. Well, I was thinking of that's true on with the reader perspective, but I mean
Well,
like
okay,
in
yeah, yeah.
within their story in story of the civilians, you know.
Of
Yeah.
course, of course. So, yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it. So that was quite the episode, 3 hours and 40 minutes. My God, this is the way we normally go. But
Right.
it's all fun, and it's always fun to crap on Tom King because he so deserves it. Anyway, wait, do you think Hippolyta will return before King's run is finished? Nope,
No.
not
Mm-mm.
before his run is finished. Absolutely not. Because King probably doesn't even know who Hippolyta is. I'm exaggerating, but you guys, you get my point, okay? I'm sure he doesn't even know that Philippus is technically her other mother. So
That's true. He doesn't. Probably not.
yeah, exactly, because of what he's been pushing in the book. But anyway, so Britt, do you have any fan stories you want to tease us with?
Okay, so first we've hit 69.5 thousand followers on Instagram. So we are less than, or 500 away from 70,000. So that is a very, for a relationship that
That supposedly
isn't
people don't want.
want or don't like or whatever, for 70,000, that is pretty big.
In which
So,
case, Britt, I give you this.
well, thank you. But yeah, that support and everything really means a lot. And again, for a couple that supposedly isn't liked and all of this, to show that basically to show the reality that this relationship does have the interest. It it like I said, it really means a lot. As far as with stories, yeah, a lot of them. We have the
Yeah.
entire Shuttleverse that keeps on growing. I do have two stories that um, they are basically 4 parts, and one of them is 6 parts. But I will be posting those within the week. Of course, Jared, you get your exclusive once I finish dotting the I's and crossing the T's to make
I'm the
sure it is
Access
perfect.
Media.
Yes. It is Odyssey. Oh my God. I love the details that we are putting into this story. Like how I sent you earlier about their heights and stuff. And it's just those small little details that really makes the story, because as we are writing this, and it's when we talk about certain scenes that we want and you imagine it in your mind, it's like it becomes so vivid. So it's kind of like, yeah, those little things really matter. And to have so many people who love the stories and continue to, support and read them, it means a lot. So yeah, so it will be up soon with just all the updates that I rather need to get to.
Yeah, there's so much. And you update every 4 years.
I won't lie, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's like if you have a 3-part story, that'll normally take like 12 years.
Okay,
I'm
no,
only
don't get
kidding.
that funny. Don't get that
I'm only
funny. You're
kidding. I'm
so
only kidding.
shady.
I,
So
I
shady.
I live in Florida. I gotta live in the shade, Britt. You know this. You know this. We both live in very hot states. You know this.
We do. It is, yeah.
Yeah,
The heat here is already. It's like wow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But so stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lame. She belongs to General Zod, and Steve Trevor, Steve Never. He belongs 12 feet in the ground. Yes, I upgraded from 6 feet. Zois and Max are bad for life. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.